Chapter 300. Wang Daoyuan wasn't sure what the problem was. The structure of the kite was simple. It mimicked the shape of an eagle. Its wings and tail were fixed, so there shouldn't be a problem. The eagle-type demon bird's flying speed was much faster than that of humans. The golden-winged demon bird's cultivation was at the mid-grade of the second rank. Flying 5,000 miles in 2 hours was like playing around, and he didn't see it shaking in the air. The runes used for flying were all copied from the crane feather boat. The crane feather boat was a mature magic tool, so the patterns wouldn't have any fatal flaws. The biggest possibility was that the patterns didn't match the shape of the kite. An upper-grade second-stage weapon refiner could improve the patterns, but it wasn't something that could be done in a day. In any case, this flying kite could fly for about 3,400 kilometers in 2 hours, which was enough for it to fly faster than a peak foundation establishment cultivator. He didn't dare to go against a Zifu realm cultivator, so he didn't want to fly faster than one. As for solving the problem, he wasn't in a hurry. Once he was done with Shanbei, he would throw Bai Xing into the spiritual pearl and let him study it. 1,000 miles south of the oasis, he put away the kite and flew on his sword. The oasis was located at the southern edge of the desert. The oasis was oval in shape. It was 500 miles long from east to west and 300 miles wide from north to south. The oasis was low-lying. There was a small mountain range in the north and south. The spring water on the mountain converged into streams that flowed to the center of the oasis, nourishing the basin between the two mountains. In the center of the oasis was a circular lake with a diameter of 100 miles. Because the two mountains surrounded the oasis, it was difficult for the wind to blow in. The surface of the lake was calm all year round, so it was called the Jewel Mirror Lake. There was an upper-grade second-stage non-elemental spiritual vein in the oasis. The south of the oasis was a sparse grassland while the other 3 sides were deserts. Under such circumstances, the oasis was worthy of being called a treasure land. The environment around the lake was harsh. There were no large groups of demon beasts or half-demon tribes nearby. It was said that many years ago, there was a group of demon beasts in the lake, but they were exterminated by the half-demons. After that, the lake became the territory of a half-demon tribe. Before the imperial family of Zhao was exterminated, they had crossed the Huiyan mountain many times to conquer the demon race and built many human strongholds in the north of the mountain. Many small forces of the human tribe in the northern mountains were left behind at that time. Where there were people and spiritual energy, there would be itinerant cultivators. Some desperados scurried around, looking for a place to settle down. Several hundred years ago, a group of desperate rogue cultivators in the late stage of foundation establishment discovered the Mirror Gem Lake Oasis. As for the half-demons who occupied this place, the strongest among them was only at the late foundation establishment stage. They couldn't stop this group of desperados at all. In the end, the half-demon tribe either died or fled. This place became the territory of rogue cultivators. The spirit veins of the Jewel Mirror Lake Oasis were truly of a low grade. Zifu disciples and rank 3 monstrous beasts didn't care about this place at all, while rank 2 monstrous beasts didn't have the ability to take this place. Moreover, the Mirror Lake Oasis wasn't that big. Building a foundation here would have little future prospects. There weren't any powerful forces nearby, and the forces thousands of miles away didn't have to come all the way here just for a rank 2 spirit vein. As a result, the Mirror Lake Oasis became a place that no one cared about. After the reconciliation between the Ghost sect and the Demon tribe in the north of the mountain, the number of the human tribe in the north of the mountain rose sharply, and there were more rogue cultivators. Due to the uniqueness of the Mirror Lake Oasis, it attracted even more rogue cultivators. Desperados also liked to stay here. Many years ago, Qinji and Qiyun were one of these desperados. The eastern shore of the Mirror Lake was a market square. It was a bit of a stretch to call it a market square. There were only a few buildings that could barely be considered shops. Everyone else was setting up stalls. There were no rules here, and no one was in charge. Some cultivators relied on their high cultivation to rob cultivators doing business, but no one cared. Once a conflict broke out, whoever won was in the right. If the others weren't strong enough, they could only blame themselves for being unlucky. This was a place where the strong were respected. The fist was the law. In the past, there were people who wanted to set rules here, but they were beaten to death. Wang Daoyuan stepped on the tiger fiend's sword and landed at the edge of the market square. He wanted to find trouble with Chenji, so he had to understand the situation of this old fellow. A place like the market square where crooks mixed in with honest folk was the best place to gather information. As soon as he landed, a 9th-level foundation establishment cultivator wearing a gray robe came forward. This guy didn't state his intentions, and just stared at Wang Daoyuan. Wang Daoyuan was a bit scared. He used a disguise technique to change his appearance. It was different from when he was at the returning wild goose market, but he still looked like a middle-aged man. He didn't hide his cultivation. 8th-level foundation establishment was enough to scare many people here. If his cultivation was too low, there would be a lot of trouble. He also didn't reveal anything unusual. This person kept staring at him. He didn't know what was wrong with him. Wang Daoyuan took a few steps to the right, wanting to go around the gray-robed cultivator. The gray-robed cultivator also took a few steps to the right, continuing to block the way. This guy was sincerely looking for trouble. Wang Daoyuan naturally couldn't back down. Rogue cultivators bullied the weak and feared the strong. If you gave in once, there would be more people coming to bully you. Wang Daoyuan asked, "Dao, what's the meaning of this? Tell me." The gray-robed cultivator took out a storage bag and said with a smile, "As long as you know the rules. Here's 1,000 spirit stones. The short sword in your hand belongs to me. Seeing that you're an 8th-level foundation establishment cultivator, I'll have to put in a lot of effort to deal with you. If you know what's good for you, leave the short sword and scram with the spirit stones." Wang Daoyuan held the hilt of the tiger-killing sword and released his powerful spiritual sense. Using the misty cloud escape, he flitted past the gray-robed cultivator. A pitch-black cloud enveloped the surrounding Tenzhong. He deliberately held back and didn't use the cloud mist escape at full strength. After a few breaths of time, the black mist dissipated. The gray-robed cultivator still maintained his original posture, but the storage bag in his hand and waist were gone. Wang Daoyuan held the 2 storage bags in his hand and said with a smile, "Mirror Treasure Lake's people are really simple. I just arrived and someone is already giving me all his belongings." The surrounding cultivators all had strange expressions. This was the first time someone praised Mirror Treasure Lake like this. They were flattered. As soon as he finished speaking, the gray-robed cultivator fell to the ground. His head hit the ground and separated from his body. However, no blood flowed out. If one looked carefully, there was a layer of black ice at the cut on his neck. This time, the surrounding cultivators were truly shocked. Killing someone 1 level above him in an instant, and no one saw how he did it. Wang Daoyuan spoke again, "I don't have a habit of using people to refine tools. Whoever wants this dead dog can take it." With that, he turned around and walked away. Only after he walked more than 20 feet away did a few cultivators dare to come forward and snatch the corpse. On a tall building in the market, 2 white-haired old cultivators, one with a long beard and the other with a short beard, were watching the scene. The long-bearded cultivator asked, "Did you see anything?" The short-bearded cultivator replied, "Spiritual sense suppression, causing the opponent to lose focus for a moment." Then, using a brilliant escape technique, he quickly passed by the opponent and used the short sword in his hand to cut off the opponent's head. This person's spiritual power carried a kind of cold yin qi, able to freeze the blood of a 9th-layer foundation establishment cultivator. His escape technique was extremely extraordinary, but I couldn't see anything special about it. Moreover, this person's spiritual sense cultivation is not below yours or mine. The long-bearded cultivator said with a smile, "The first part is correct, but the last part is bullshit. What do you mean not below yours or mine? Why don't you try competing with him? This brat's spiritual sense cultivation is stronger than both of us peak foundation establishment cultivators. I really don't know how he cultivated it." The short-bearded cultivator said with a helpless smile, "Can't I talk big? Then how should we deal with this person? Should we deal with him or rope him in?" Chapter 301. The long-bearded cultivator stroked his long beard and pondered for a long time before saying, "This person is at the 8th level of foundation establishment, and his spiritual sense cultivation is above ours. This kind of person is either a direct disciple of a great power and has come out to gain experience. If we take care of this kind of person, it will be hard to leave anyone alive in the entire Mirror Treasure Lake. Or he has great luck and great talent. This kind of person's cultivation progress is extremely fast and is not to be trifled with. If we make a move on him, it will be fine if we succeed. But if he escapes, then we will wait for him to come back and kill us in a few years. In my opinion, we should not act blindly without thinking first. If this person is only here to travel, then we should not disturb him. If he is staying here for a long time, then we can also rope him in. As long as he does not interfere with our plan, we should not make a move. If he insists on opposing us, then we can only send him away." The short-bearded cultivator nodded and said, "Let's do it this way." This person casually revealed 2 methods that we cannot compare to. This person is also a decisive person and does not seem like a greenhorn. He must have some trump cards that he has not used yet. We really do not have much confidence in taking him down. If we can avoid making a move, then we should try not to. Wang Daoyuan knew nothing about the two's plan and was still strolling around the market. The loose cultivators of Mirror Treasure Lake really had no taboos. Returning Wild Goose Market could not sell anything related to demonic beasts, but here, they did not care at all. Demonic beast bones, horns, scales, and so on were all available. The highest cultivation here was Peak Foundation Establishment, and they could only hunt rank 2 demonic beasts. Thus, most of the demonic beast materials here were mid to low grade rank 2. There were very few high grade rank 2 materials and no rank 3 materials at all. Mirror Treasure Lake Oasis was surrounded by barren land. Spiritual herbs were extremely rare, and they were all sand spirit plants. Their value was not high, so he only bought some rank 2 sand spirit plant seeds as backup. He did not linger around the stall for too long. Instead, he walked to the front of the tallest building in the market. This was a restaurant called the Mirror Lake Restaurant. Wang Daoyuan walked into the restaurant and saw that it was quite lively inside. The first floor of the restaurant was a lobby that took up more than half an acre of land. There were 40 to 50 tables, most of which were occupied. He chose a table in the corner and sat down. He shouted, "Shopkeeper, give me a few dishes and 2 jars of good wine." Not long after, a late-stage chi refinement cultivator ran over with 2 wine jars and said, "Senior, this is your wine. The dishes will be served soon." Wang Daoyuan nodded and didn't say anything. The cultivator then left. This waiter was the first chi condensation cultivator he had seen in this place. In this kind of environment where the strong preyed on the weak, even an early foundation establishment cultivator would not be able to survive, let alone a chi refinement cultivator. After a quarter of an hour, the waiter came back with a wooden tray. There were 6 dishes on the tray. He placed the 6 dishes on the table beside Wang Daoyuan and said with a smile, "Senior, your dishes are all here. May I ask if you have any other orders?" Wang Daoyuan opened a jar of wine and poured a bowl of wine. He said, "That's all." When going out, he still had to be careful. He released a few soul-chasing bees and tasted the dishes. In a place far away from the emperor, he didn't have to worry about people recognizing his soul-chasing bees. Besides, even if someone recognized them, it wasn't a big deal. What did it have to do with Wang Daoyuan that a rogue cultivator had soul-chasing bees on him? The soul-chasing bees didn't have any abnormalities, so he ate and drank without worry. The taste of this wine was not bad. It was slightly better than scarlet blood wine but much worse than spirit peach dew. It should have been stored for about 100 years. He was used to drinking spirit peach dew that was a few hundred years old, so this wine was nothing to him. After tasting all 6 dishes, the taste was still passable. Not long after, a cultivator came to the table and asked with a smile, "May I ask if this Dao you can have a bowl of wine to drink?" This person had a pointed mouth, monkey cheeks, and a rosacea nose. He was obviously a drunkard. He was also an 8th layer foundation establishment cultivator. If his cultivation was low, he wouldn't dare to come here to drink wine. Wang Daoyuan poured a bowl of wine and said with a smile, "My wine can be drunk by others, but not everyone can drink it. I wonder, how does Daoyuan drink this bowl of wine?" The rosacea-nosed cultivator smiled. "We're the same in terms of cultivation. I saw Daoyo's situation when you first came here. I'm afraid I can't even take one move from you in terms of fighting power. I don't have anything good on me, but I'm quite well informed. How about exchanging information for wine?" Wang Daoyuan nodded. "It just so happens that I'm interested in some strange stories. I only know that Treasured Mirror Lake is a rogue cultivator's territory. I wonder if there are any strange stories here?" He stared at the bowl of wine on the table and revealed an awkward smile. Wang Daoyuan waved his hand and pushed the bowl of wine in front of him. He picked up the bowl and drained it in one gulp. He then said with a carefree voice, "Daoyu is really straightforward. I won't hide it anymore. This Treasured Mirror Lake oasis is only this big, and there are hundreds of Foundation establishment rogue cultivators gathered here. Fighting and killing are common occurrences. No matter how bizarre the death, it's not rare, so it can't be considered strange. Only a dozen or so years ago did a strange thing happen." At this point, the rosacea-nosed cultivator stopped. Wang Daoyuan really wanted to slap him to death. Could this grandson be a storyteller? These words were really too suspenseful. He waved his hand, and the wine flew out of the jar and into the bowl in front of the rosacea-nosed cultivator, filling it to the brim. The rosacea-nosed cultivator picked up the bowl and drank it in one gulp. He burped and said, "A dozen or so years ago, a dozen or so rogue cultivators came from the south, looking for something nearby. Some bold local cultivators had a conflict with them. Although they were all rogue cultivators, they should be disciples of some big power. They cooperated with each other in fights, and a few of them could beat a dozen or so local cultivators of the same level. The local cultivators didn't dare to provoke them and let them search the Treasured Mirror Lake area. They tossed and turned in the oasis for several months, but didn't find anything. Then they tossed and turned in the South Mountain and North Mountain for half a year, but they still didn't find anything. Later, they began to search the desert outside the oasis. After tossing and turning for more than a year, they had a fight with someone more than 300 kilometers east of the oasis. According to passing cultivators, they encountered a group of second-rank high-grade refined corpses. These refined corpses were both humanoid and demonic beasts. Their bodies were as tough as iron, and cultivators of the same level were no match for them. At this point he paused. Wang Daoyuan naturally knew what he meant and poured him another bowl of wine. The rosacea-nosed cultivator finished the wine and continued, "This group of cultivators wasn't weak in fights. After fighting with the refined corpses for a long time, only 4 or 5 of them were injured. Seeing that they couldn't take down the refined corpses, they left the place. They didn't return to the oasis, but went straight south. After about a month, another group of cultivators dressed as rogue cultivators arrived. This time, there were even more people, about 30 of them. All of them were in the late stage of Foundation establishment, and a few of them were experts from the group that had come last time. This group of people came prepared. They used spirit talismans and magic weapons that were quite effective against the refined corpses. At first, they had the upper hand and suppressed the refined corpses. Later on, for some reason, the refined corpses suddenly became ferocious and defeated this group of people again. Furthermore, they left behind 5 or 6 lives. The rosacea-nosed cultivator paused again. Wang Daoyuan couldn't take it anymore. Every time he reached a critical point, he would stop. This was testing his patience. Chapter 302. Seeing Wang Daoyuan's unfriendly expression, the rosacea-nosed cultivator was somewhat afraid. Wang Daoyuan took out the tiger fiend sword and patted the wine jar, saying, "Speak properly, and this jar of wine is yours. If you play any more tricks, I'll let you have a taste of the tiger fiend sword." The rosacea-nosed cultivator was so frightened that he started sweating. He didn't dare to play any more tricks and swallowed his saliva, saying, "That group of cultivators lost 5 or 6 companions and more than 10 were injured. They retreated to the south. A year later, more than 30 people came again. This time, they brought a low-grade grade 3 magic weapon that looked like a bell. When the refined corpses came out, a peak foundation establishment cultivator shook the bell, and all the corpses collapsed to the ground. The other cultivators took the opportunity to set the corpses on fire and burn them all. After dealing with the refined corpses, the group began to dig underground to find the place where the refined corpses came out. Later, they seemed to have really dug something out and more than 10 people went down. The 20 or so people waiting outside waited for a few days, but no one came up. They sent people down to search, but no one came up. A few people outside flew south, and not long after, the remaining 10 or so people left as well. Since then, that group of people never came up again, and the people below were never able to come up again. Wang Daoyuan waved his hand and pushed the wine jar to the rose-nosed cultivator, saying, "This jar of wine is yours." The rose-nosed cultivator held the jar and thanked him repeatedly, then went to an empty table to drink. Wang Daoyuan thought as he ate. The entrance to the secret realm where the myriad corpse Daoist died was indeed more than 150 kilometers east of the Mirror Treasure Lake Oasis. The place where the Netherworld sect cultivators encountered the Grade 2 refined corpses should be near the entrance to the secret realm. However, the refined corpses they encountered were definitely not the ones left behind by the myriad corpse Daoist. For a golden core Daoist to cultivate refined corpses, the corpses of golden core cultivators were not easy to find. Corpses below the Violet Palace realm would only be used if they encountered corpses of Foundation establishment cultivators with special constitutions and great potential. However, special constitutions were extremely rare, and 1 in 10,000 cultivators would be hard to find. It was impossible to have so many of them. Moreover, if a cultivator with a special physique was refined into a refined corpse, their strength would be quite frightening. The first time the cultivators of the Netherworld sect encountered a refined corpse, many of them would die. If a demon beast or a human cultivator accidentally entered a secret realm and died inside, it was not impossible for them to be corroded by the yin qi and turned into a naturally refined corpse. When the cultivators of the Underworld sect came the second time, they had already suppressed the refined corpse, but the refined corpse suddenly showed great power. It could be seen that these refined corpses were not ownerless, but controlled by someone. Back then, only Qi Yun and Chen Ji had explored the secret realm. Qi Yun's soul and body were all in his spiritual pearl space. Before he deliberately revealed that there was yin qi near the Mirror Lake Oasis, the only people who knew about the secret realm were himself and Chen Ji. The person controlling these refined corpses could only be Chen Ji. As for the Nether Sect's cultivators who went underground, they never came out again. There were two possibilities. The first was that Chen Ji had set up a trap at the entrance of the secret realm to kill everyone. He had explored the secret realm twice, and it was very easy to set up an ambush at the entrance of the secret realm. However, the people of the Nether Sect were not fools. They would not rush in like a swarm of bees. Even if there was a formation, it would not kill everyone. The Nether Sect sent people to search for the secret realm, so how could they not send a formation master? From Qi Yun's memory, he knew that Chen Ji did not specialize in formations. Therefore, the possibility of Chen Ji using a formation to kill the cultivators of the Nether Sect was not high. The other possibility was that there was at least a third-stage refined corpse moving underground. Generally, refined corpses would fall into a deep sleep after their masters died. As long as there was no external interference, they would continue to sleep. Naturally refined corpses would move according to their own habits. If there was a third-stage naturally refined corpse inside, then Qi Yun and Chen Ji would have died in the secret realm. None of the cultivators of the Nether Sect who went underground came out alive. They should have all been killed after entering the secret realm. Therefore, even if there was a third-stage refined corpse moving in the secret realm, it would definitely not be a natural refined corpse. Third-stage refined corpses could not fly, and they were not as agile as cultivators. However, they were able to kill over a dozen late-stage Foundation establishment cultivators. This meant that there was more than one third-stage refined corpse in the secret realm. Since there was more than one third-stage refined corpse, There were no Violet Palace realm cultivators or third-stage demonic beasts around the treasured Mirror Lake. However, Qianji did not release them to kill the cultivators of the treasured Mirror Lake to obtain materials for refining corpses. The biggest possibility was that he couldn't control the third-stage refined corpse, and he was afraid that it would rebel against him. From this, it could be seen that Qianji's cultivation was only at the pinnacle of the Foundation establishment realm. Now, Wang Daoyuan was completely relieved. Even though he might not be able to defeat Qianji, who was at the peak of the foundational level, at least he wouldn't be killed so easily. As for the third-stage refined corpses, Qianji could not control them well. If he released them, who knew who they would attack? As long as he did not enter the secret realm, there was no need for him to worry about the third-stage refined corpses. Even if Qianji released the third-stage refined corpse, he could use the flying kite to escape. What could a refined corpse that could not fly do to him? There was no need for him to worry about Qianji's cultivation. After all, he hadn't been able to establish his Violet Palace for so many years. Right now, he had to think about how to lure Qianji out. After all, he couldn't keep wasting time here. After figuring everything out, Wang Daoyuan quickly finished his meal. At this moment, Wang Daoyuan suddenly sensed a slight spiritual sense fluctuation coming from the third floor to the innkeeper's ear. It was a spiritual sense transmission, and he could tell that the spiritual sense of the person who sent it was slightly weaker than him. However, it was limited, and the person should be at the pinnacle of the Foundation establishment realm. Although Wang Daoyuan's spiritual sense was strong, it wasn't strong enough to intercept a spiritual sense transmission. The Mirror Lake Inn had 3 floors. The first floor was empty, the second floor was private rooms, and the third floor was not for guests. Since he wanted to gather information, the first floor was naturally the most suitable place for him to sit. Wang Daoyuan shouted for the bill, and the innkeeper personally came over. The innkeeper was at the 5th stage of the Foundation establishment realm. He came to the table and said with a smile, "Daoyu, are you satisfied with the food?" Wang Daoyuan didn't say anything and only nodded. The innkeeper continued, "These dishes cost a total of 1,000 spirit stones." Wang Daoyuan said with a smile, "Your master is really interesting. When I first arrived here, Daoyu gave me 1,000 spirit stones, and your master insisted on taking them back. Forget it, it's only 1,000 spirit stones. I can kill anyone for more than that. Since your master wants them, then take them." Then, he took out 10 mid-grade spirit stones from his storage pouch and handed them to the innkeeper before leaving the inn. In a room on the 3rd floor, there were 2 cultivators, one with a long beard and the other with a short beard. The short-beard cultivator said with a smile, "This person is really sharp. He can even detect the fluctuations of a spiritual sense transmission." If his spiritual sense cultivation was higher, he might be able to intercept the contents of the spiritual sense transmission. "What do you think of this person?" The long-bearded old man replied, "This person's spiritual power has an extremely strong yin qi." He also inquired about the corpse refinement more than 10 years ago. Maybe he's also aiming for that place. This person isn't someone who haggles over minor matters. He's also straightforward and upright in his actions. He's an excellent partner. If he continues to stay here, we can try to rope him in. The short-bearded cultivator nodded and said, "We still have to test him. Maybe this person is in cahoots with the previous group. If that's the case, we'll be asking a tiger for its skin. Moreover, this person's temperament really doesn't seem like a rogue cultivator. Coupled with his brilliant methods, he might be a direct disciple of some great power. It was risky to work with such a person. He's not weak, but if we fall underground, we'll be hunted down by the power behind him." Chapter 303. Wang Daoyuan left Mirror Lake Restaurant and flew towards Nanshan Mountain. Because there was no reliable place to live in the market, most of the rogue cultivators opened their cave abodes in Nanshan Mountain Inn and Beiyuan Mountain Sunday. His character in Mirror Lake Oasis was that of a heretic cultivator, and his spiritual power carried dense yin qi. Such a cultivator naturally didn't like sunlight, so it was unreasonable for him to live in Beiyuan Mountain Sunday. There were fewer cave abodes in Nanshan Mountain Yin than Beishan Mountain Sunday. Most of the cultivators in Mirror Lake didn't have a tomorrow. Therefore, there were many cave abodes in the mountain. Cave abodes with people were naturally protected by formations, and cave abodes without formations were naturally uninhabited. Wang Daoyuan found an abandoned cave abode in Nanshan Mountain Yin. The location of the cave abode was quite good, halfway up the mountain. There was a huge protruding rock outside the cave abode's entrance, like a broken bridge, extending to the north for more than 30 meters. The surface of the rock was flat, and the entrance of the cave abode formed a platform that was more than 30 meters long and 40 to 50 meters wide. This cave abode didn't have any formations protecting it, so it was obviously uninhabited. After entering the cave abode, it was very simple inside. Except for a stone couch, there was nothing else. There were defensive formation patterns on the cave abode's entrance and walls, but they were already damaged. This array pattern was also only Tier 2 high-grade standard. Wang Daoyuan spent half a day's effort and finished repairing it. There was only one spirit vein in Mirror Lake Oasis, and it was at the bottom of Mirror Lake. Because of the terrain, spiritual qi couldn't easily spread out, and between the two mountains, there was still a lot of spiritual qi. However, the drifting spiritual qi couldn't directly provide spiritual power for the formation. Therefore, the cave abode's defensive formation could only be provided with spiritual power by spirit stones. In the process of repairing the formation, he found that the formation patterns on the walls weren't damaged by the passage of time, but by sword marks, which showed that there was a fierce battle here. After he finished repairing all the formation patterns, he carefully observed the entire formation and found that there was a problem with the formation, and there was an obvious loophole. After the formation was activated, one could enter the cave abode from the outside without destroying the formation. This formation seemed to be a trap. After someone lived in the cave abode, the person who set up the formation could sneak in and attack at any time. No wonder there was no damage on the door of the cave, but there were many sword marks inside the cave. It seemed that the last unlucky person who lived in this cave had been killed by someone through a loophole in the array formation. He reckoned that this matter had caused quite a ruckus. After that, the array formation of this immortal cave had not been repaired. No wonder no one lived in such a good cave. It wasn't easy for others to set up this trap, so it would be a pity to make up for it just like that. This formation pattern looked like it was only a few decades old. The person who set the trap back then might still be alive, and it was a good opportunity to use this trap to lure him out. He did not fix the flaws in the array formation. Instead, he set it up inside. Once someone entered, he could close the gap in the formation at any time, making it impossible for anyone to leave. In order to prevent the enemy from sending too many people, he would fail miserably at such an easy task. He was still inside the cave abode, setting up the Gold Fiend Soul Severing Array with a disc array. He had witnessed the power of this formation back when he was resisting the Beast Tide. He had also taken the time to refine this formation disc. He had 4 Tiger Fiend swords and many Tiger Claw blades. Actually, it was better to use Dharma artifacts to hold down the array. However, even if he did not connect it to the spirit vein, it would take at least 10 days to half a month to set up a small array. The fish he wanted to catch could come at any time. There was no time to slowly set up the array. He placed the disc array in a specific position and placed a mid-grade spirit stone on it. He activated the disc array to absorb the spirit chi in the mid-grade spirit stone and store it in the disc array. After the disc array finished absorbing the energy, he replaced it with a new mid-grade spirit stone. Finally, he simply hid the disc array. After the Gold Fiend Soul Severing Array was set up, he installed a mid-grade second-grade spirit stone in the original array formation of the cave abode and activated it. For foundation establishment cultivators, sleep was no longer a necessity. Meditation could completely replace sleep. Wang Daoyuan also meditated at the core of the array formation, waiting for the fish to take the bait. 3 days later, at night, a soft sound came from outside the cave abode. He used his spirit sense to explore outside and saw 6 cultivators outside. They were all late-stage foundation establishment cultivators. The leader was a 9th-level foundation establishment cultivator, not far from peak foundation establishment. He was using his spirit sense to send a message to the others. After a few breaths, the 9th-level Foundation Establishment Cultivator came to the entrance of the cave abode and touched a few array patterns on the door. Then, the array patterns on the door were all closed. He led the other 5 people into the cave, and the last person closed the door behind him. Seeing Wang Daoyuan meditating, he mocked, "I didn't expect Dao Yu to be an array master. Unfortunately, you're not skilled enough to see through my backup plan. This cave abode has been abandoned for decades. I didn't expect to catch a big fish. Hand over your cultivation technique and escape technique obediently and I'll spare your life." Wang Daoyuan revealed a contemptuous smile. Then, with a move of his spirit sense, the array patterns on the door of the cave abode were instantly activated. The person closest to the door among the 6 tried to open it but failed. He took out his sword and attacked the door. The array patterns only trembled a few times. It would take at least half an hour to completely break it. Wang Daoyuan smiled. "You guys are really patient. You wasted 3 days of my time and only came to die now." The 9th-level Foundation Establishment Cultivator said in disdain, "Although you're strong and I'm not your match in a one-on-one fight, there are 6 of us. I don't believe that you can defeat the 6 of us." Wang Daoyuan smiled and did not reply. He activated the gold malevolent soul severing formation and a malevolent aura filled the entire cave abode. With the cave abode sealed, the 6 of them had no way out and were panicking. At this moment, the malevolent aura of the gold malevolent soul severing formation was released and affected their minds. 3 of the 7th-level Foundation Establishment Cultivators were stunned on the spot. The other 3 were also momentarily dazed. Wang Daoyuan did not hesitate and immediately summoned the soul-destroying bell. At this moment, he was already at Foundation Establishment Level 8 and his spirit sense surpassed that of ordinary peak Foundation Establishment Cultivators. He could unleash the full power of the soul-destroying bell. The cave abode was only so big and the 6 of them were very close to the soul-destroying bell. Coupled with the rebound effect of the cave abode's walls, they were repeatedly ravaged by the sound wave attacks. After the sound of the bell dissipated, the 6 of them rolled their eyes. Other than the leader being strong and having his soul damaged, there were no other fatal injuries. The other 5 had their souls dissipated from the shock and their organs were severely damaged. They were bleeding from their 7 orifices and did not seem like they would survive. It was not suitable to refine clones for these heavily injured and dying cultivators. It was too troublesome to treat their injuries. His goal was to refine clones, not to open a charity hall. Who cared about their lives? If they were not suitable to be refined into clones, there would naturally be more suitable ones and he could just capture other cultivators. Zhao Baogua and Shadow Fox had already died of old age and he was left with 4 clones as well as Qi Yun who did not have a split soul. After replacing Wu Yi's split soul, the 4 split souls only accounted for 4% of his soul. He could still have 6 more clones. However, he was in a dangerous place right now and it was not suitable for him to split his soul. Among the 4 clones, there was Liang Zixing, a Qi refinement cultivator. There was not much use for him to continue keeping him. He pulled out the split soul from his sea of consciousness and used the soul-splitting blade to invade the 9th-level Foundation Establishment Cultivator's sea of consciousness. In the 9th-level Foundation Establishment Cultivator's sea of consciousness, his soul was in a state of dissipation. With a light touch of the soul-splitting blade, the soul was about to dissipate. Wang Daoyuan immediately poured his split soul into the sea of consciousness. The soul-splitting blade turned into the power of his spiritual sense and reformed the soul. Then he put the clone into the space of the spirit bead. The other 5 people were already dead and there was no point in keeping them. After searching the bodies, he tied their necks with a rope and hung them on the protruding rock outside the cave abode. Chapter 304. As an evil cultivator, he couldn't be too merciful. He couldn't spare anyone who deserved to be killed. He could also use the lives of these itinerant cultivators as a warning to those who had designs on him. Apart from wanting to end the battle quickly, he also wanted to lure the snake out of its hole by using the soul-extinguishing bell this time. He used the soul-extinguishing bell in the cave abode and was blocked by the door, so it couldn't reach the market more than 50 kilometers away. However, it was still very likely that the surrounding cave abodes could hear it. Everything in the world was no longer a secret as long as there was a second person who knew about it. As long as someone other than him heard the bell, it would definitely spread. It would take him a long time to find Qianji, so it was better to lure him out. After a few hours, the new avatar and divided soul had finished fusing. His name was Lu Zong, and he was the person who set up the trap in the cave abode. Lu Zong was originally from Shannon, but he was not a cultivator from Zhao country but Wei country. Wei country was in the west of Zhao country and was far weaker than Zhao country in the past. When the Zhao royal family was still around, they often attacked Wei country. If not for the beast tide that broke out in the heavenly/mountain range and Huiyan mountain many times and restrained Zhao country's energy, Wei country would have been destroyed long ago. After the Zhao royal family was destroyed, the higher-ups of the three major sects also suffered heavy losses. So far, the high-end combat power of the three major sects was much weaker than that of Wei country. Among the more than 10 large and small countries in Beiyuan Xiuxian, only Zhao country and Qin country maintained the unification of the royal family. In the other countries, the royal family was either long gone or just one of the major forces. It was the same for Wei country. When the royal family of Zhao country was still around, they seized all the strongholds at the border. Even if Zhao country was not strong now, the surrounding countries could only take back some of the territory at the edge and couldn't attack Zhao country. However, Zhao country was no longer as powerful as before, but they still occupied the strongholds at the border. The forces of Wei country were always under the threat of Zhao country. The forces of Wei country naturally wanted to take back those strongholds, but Wei country was also in a state of disunity. Only the forces near the border wanted to attack Zhao country. There was no benefit for the other forces to attack Zhao country, so they naturally wouldn't help. They were also worried that the forces near the border would take back their territory and become stronger. Not only did they not help, but they also kept hindering them. Therefore, there were no major battles at the borders of Zhao and Wei. Instead, there were many small skirmishes. Lu Zong was originally a cultivator from a family clan near the Cold River Pass at the border of Zhao and Wei. When the Wei nation attacked the Cold River Pass, they did not want to lose too many of their own disciples. Therefore, they tried their best to recruit affiliated family clans. Most of the Lu Zong family's experts had died in battle. If they continued to maintain the family's disciples would all be finished sooner or later. In order to preserve a little bit of their lineage, the remaining cultivators of the Lu clan all dispersed and went to various places to become rogue cultivators. At that time, Lu Zong was only a qi refinement cultivator and did not carry the inheritance of the Lu family. Later on, he succeeded in building his foundation without the help of a foundation-building pill. The Wei nation forces wantonly captured itinerant cultivators as cannon fodder. These rogue cultivators fled to other places, and many of them fled into Mount Huiyan. Mount Huiyan, near the Frigid River Pass, was the lair of the demonic beasts. The cultivators who fled to Mount Huiyan had a slim chance of survival. Lu Fang was very lucky. When she used the Earth Escape Talisman to escape, she encountered an underground river. She followed the river to the north and finally escaped to the north of the mountain. In order to survive, he had killed many people and hunted many monsters. There were not many places in Shanbei that could accommodate him. After many years, he finally arrived at Treasure Mirror Lake. He had obtained an upper-grade Rank 2 array inheritance and became a Rank 2 array master with his good talent. Most array masters knew some refining techniques. Lu Fang's refining skills were not high and were only at the upper-grade Rank 1 level. There was no value in nurturing him at all. It was not easy to earn spirit stones from array masters. That was why he came up with such a plan to use the cave abode to set up a trap and lure people in before killing them and robbing them. Lu Fang's cultivation method and magic art were all very ordinary things. Over the years, the Immortal's cave's traps could not deceive people. She did not have many spirit stones in her hands. Even her magic weapon was only a second-tier high-grade longsword. The quality of the sword was not good and was inferior to the tiger claw blade. Wang Daoyuan could not use it at all. The other 5 cultivators, including the cultivator that he killed when he first arrived at the market, did not have anything good either. He only found some useless jade slips, 6 flying swords, and more than 40,000 spirit stones in the 6 storage bags. Lu Fang's value was not great as his refining skills were too low. An array master could only help refine a few array discs in the space of the spiritual pearl. However, his cultivation was not low and he could blend in with the blood shadow. He could learn the inheritance of the Beiyuan sword sect in the space and increase his battle strength. After joining the blood shadow, he could try to make Yulang a mere figurehead or fight to become a manager himself. After Wang Daoyuan meditated for a long time in the cave abode, a middle-stage foundation establishment cultivator came to greet him. That person said, "Senior, my master has something to discuss with you. Please come to the Mirror Lake restaurant for a chat." Wang Daoyuan sneered, "What does your master have to do with me? I don't have anything important to discuss with your master. Scram, if you disturb my cultivation again, the 5 outside will be your examples." There were still 5 late-stage foundation establishment cultivators' corpses hanging on the rock at the entrance of the cave abode. He was only a middle-stage foundation establishment cultivator. How could he not kill them? He did not dare to say anything else and left with his tail between his legs. He arrived at the Mirror Lake restaurant and reported to the long-bearded and short-bearded cultivators. The long-bearded cultivator laughed. "This Dao Yu is quite capable." 6 people went to ambush him and 5 of them were hung up as a warning to others. Lu Zong is still missing. Our informants also did not see Lu Zong come out. He was most likely beaten to a pulp. Our informants reported that not long after the 6 of them went in, they heard the sound of a bell. After half a cup of tea's time, the 5 of them were hung on the rock. He might have a sound wave attack magic tool. His methods are far above yours and mine, so we should try to rope him in. It's a pity that this person is very wary of us and did not accept our invitation. The short-bearded cultivator said, as soon as he arrived at the Mirror Lake Oasis, he came looking for trouble twice and killed 7 people. It would be strange if he wasn't wary. We were too hasty in inviting him. He just finished killing people, so we invited him and said that we have something to discuss. No matter how you look at it, it seems like we sent people to assassinate him and after they failed, we wanted to lure him in and kill him. Our plan is not urgent and we can slowly rope him in. Let's find an excuse to meet him and dispel his wariness before we talk about other things. The long-bearded cultivator nodded and said, "Let's do it this way then. This person's cultivation techniques, spells and magic tools are all good. I haven't seen him buy anything in the market either. It can be seen that he has very high standards. It just so happens that there's going to be a late-stage foundation establishment cultivator exchange in a while. Let's take out some good stuff and invite him in the name of the exchange." 2 months later, the long-bearded and short-bearded cultivators personally came to the door of Wang Daoyuan's cave abode. The long-bearded cultivator shouted, "I, Ji Cheng, and my younger brother, Ji Yu, have come to invite Dao Yu to participate in the late-stage foundation establishment cultivator exchange. I wonder if Dao Yu is willing to entertain us 2 brothers?" Wang Daoyuan scanned with his spiritual sense and discovered that the 2 of them were both peak foundation establishment cultivators. The strength of peak foundation establishment cultivators was not easy to estimate. Some were not much different from foundation establishment level 9, while some were far stronger. Some, like Shizhenbang, could even exchange 2 blows with Zifu realm cultivators. Therefore, early-stage and mid-stage foundation establishment cultivators would respectfully address peak foundation establishment cultivators as seniors when they met them. If he did not entertain the 2 peak foundation establishment cultivators who had personally come to invite him, he would be offending them. If he really became enemies with these 2 brothers, he did not even have the confidence to win against one of them with his strength, let alone 2 brothers. He still had to deal with Qinji. If he could avoid offending these 2, he would try his best not to. Wang Daoyuan closed the cave abode's defensive formation and said, "Dao Yu has come to visit. Please forgive me for not coming out to welcome you." Chapter 305. The two people walked into the abode. Wang Daoyuan did not get up to welcome but sat beside the gold fiend soul-severing formation's core array disk, ready to activate the array formation at any time. With the protection of the array formation, even if these two people made a move against him, he could handle it too. The two brothers were both peak foundation establishment realm cultivations. Their divine senses were not weak either. They could naturally discover the array disk that Wang Daoyuan casually concealed. Ji Cheng clasped his hands and said, Daoyu came to Treasure Mirror Lake Oasis for so long, but we still haven't asked for Daoyu's name. Wang Daoyuan clasped his hands and said, This one is Wu Chuan. Greetings to the two Daoyu. Jiyu smiled and said, Wu Daoyu has such strength at Foundation Establishment Realm 8th level cultivation. I presume that opening up the Purple Palace isn't a hard thing either. Looking at the arrangement of this abode, Daoyu is also an array master? Wang Daoyuan answered, This Wu indeed knows a little about the Dao of array formations. Ji Cheng clasped his hands and said, I wonder if Wu Daoyu has dabbled in artifact refinement before? Wang Daoyuan countered with a question, Could it be that there are still array masters who don't know artifact refinement? Although this Wu's artifact refinement Dao is inferior to array formations, I can also barely enter Tier 2 standard. Ji Cheng gave his younger brother a glance with a smile and said, Then I have to congratulate Wu Daoyu. We itinerant cultivators lack complete inheritances. Therefore, itinerant cultivators who major in alchemy, artifact, and talisman, these three paths, are very few. In the past late-stage Foundation Establishment Cultivator Exchange meetings, array discs, magic artifacts, medicinal pills, spirit talismans, and so on are all extremely popular. Each exchange meeting, there will be quite a number of good artifact refinement materials. There are even quite a number of all kinds of incomplete Tier 3 inheritances. If Daoyu is interested, you can take out array discs, magic artifacts, and so on to exchange for artifact refinement materials and so on. Wang Daoyuan's face revealed a look of interest and said, Looks like I have to go to this exchange meeting? Jiyu smiled and said, Since Daoyu is interested in participating, us two brothers' trip this time isn't in vain. In 2 months, the exchange meeting will be held on the 3rd floor of the Mirror Lake Inn. They please come. Goodbye. Wang Daoyuan cupped his hands and said, I will definitely be there on time. I won't see you off. During these 2 months, Wang Daoyuan didn't go out. Instead, he refined several artifacts. His avatar Lu Zong also refined some array discs inside the space. He could also take out some pills and talismans to exchange, but he didn't need to refine any more. In the past few years, he hadn't fought much, so he hadn't used up any talismans, and he had only used up some soul-solidifying pills. In order to maintain his level, he had to refine a furnace of pills and 1 or 2 talismans every 4 or 5 days. He still had a lot of stock in his space. After reaching the Foundation Establishment stage, cultivators would be able to fly on their swords, and offensive talismans would no longer be of much use. Level 2 talismans were mainly defensive talismans and talismans with special effects. He still had a total of more than 1,000 high-grade Tier 2 defensive and escape talismans, as well as over 1,000 essence-condensing pills, detoxification pills, and soul-strengthening pills. He didn't need the rejuvenation pill himself, so he only refined a few, only 1 or 200 of them. If he sold all these things, he would get hundreds of thousands of spirit stones. Of course, he didn't dare to take them all out. Otherwise, he would definitely be attacked by a group. It would be good to exchange them for some valuable spiritual items or incomplete level 3 inheritances. For the pill, artifact, and talisman array inheritances, take the artifact refinement inheritances as an example. Most inheritances had the same foundation, but different inheritances focused on different things. In a brilliant inheritance, there would be a unique Dharma artifact. Even if there were only 1 or 2 unique Dharma artifact refinement methods in the inheritance, they would still be of great value. After all, it was too difficult to research a new Dharma artifact himself. Bai Sheng's avatar had been busy for 20 years and only improved the crane feather boat. With Wang Daoyuan's guidance, the improved flying kite still had a huge flaw. If he were to research a Dharma artifact from scratch, It would take at least 80 to 100 years. To artifact refinement masters, the refinement methods of special Dharma artifacts were extremely precious. Apart from that, it was the same for pill, talisman, and array Dao. There were many basic things, and slightly special ones were very difficult to obtain. If he wanted to develop pill recipes, talismans, and array formations himself, he would have to try countless times. Although pill, talisman, and array Dao were important, they couldn't compare to cultivation. Naturally, Wang Daoyuan couldn't spend so much effort to research these things. His avatar's soul was injured and his comprehension was extremely low. It was still all right to learn step by step. At most, he would come up with new ideas and let them put them into practice. The possibility of relying on his avatar to come up with new tricks was too low. Therefore, it was also very valuable to be able to obtain some incomplete inheritances. 2 months had passed and the trade meet was about to begin. He put away the Gold Fiend soul-severing array in his cave abode and activated the defensive array formation. Then he left his cave abode and headed to the Mirror Lake restaurant. When he arrived at the restaurant, he displayed his foundation establishment level 8 spirit energy waves. The manager asked the Qi refinement cultivator to bring him to the door of the 3rd floor. Wang Daoyuan entered the door and saw that the layout inside was a little like a classroom in his previous life. The space inside the room was long from north to south and narrow from east to west. At the northernmost end was a platform that was more than a foot tall. In the middle of the platform was a table that resembled a lectern. Where the table should be, there were prayer mats. When he entered the door, there were already 30 to 40 people in the room. Seeing him enter, the brothers Ji Cheng and Ji Yu cupped their fists and said, "Wu Daoyu is here. Please take a seat." With that, they led him to the front row and sat with the other Peak Foundation establishment cultivators. The Peak Foundation establishment cultivators of the Mirror Lake Oasis all had a few subordinates. Naturally, they had heard of Wang Daoyuan's situation. Knowing that his strength was comparable to Peak Foundation establishment cultivators, they had no objections. On the other hand, the other Foundation establishment level 8 and level 9 cultivators were somewhat unhappy and asked each other about Wang Daoyuan's identity. When they learned that he had occupied the trap cave abode and killed 6 late-stage Foundation establishment cultivators alone, they didn't say anything. The corpses of the 5 late-stage Foundation establishment cultivators were still hanging on the boulder in front of the cave abode. No one wanted to provoke him. After all, this person had killed Foundation establishment level 9 cultivators in broad daylight. Apart from those Peak Foundation establishment cultivators, no one was confident that they could withstand his sword. Since the Peak Foundation establishment cultivators didn't say anything, the others naturally didn't dare to court death. After waiting for about 2 hours, there were a total of more than 80 people present. Apart from the Peak Foundation establishment cultivators, most people didn't show their faces. Wang Daoyuan couldn't wait for Qinji to come to him, so he didn't hide. Ji Cheng stood on the stage and said, "Everyone, Daoyu is almost here. The exchange meeting is held once every 10 years. This time, there are many acquaintances and strangers, so I'll go over the rules again. Everyone, Daoyu is free to go on stage and show what you want to exchange. You can exchange anything you want. As long as there's no conflict here, everything else is up to you." With that, he walked down the stage. Wang Daoyuan's goal was to exchange for some materials and inheritances. The only things he could take out were common magic artifacts. Therefore, he wasn't in a hurry to go on stage. A 7-stage Foundation establishment cultivator took the lead and walked to the front of the stage. He took out a turtle shell that was more than 30 feet long and said, "This is the shell of a 2nd-stage high-grade demon beast, the thick earth spirit turtle. It was killed not long ago and is very well preserved. I want to exchange it for a defensive magic artifact. It's best if it's of the metal attribute. I can also accept non-elemental ones." If this turtle shell was taken apart, it would be enough to refine 5 2nd-stage high-grade shields. Just the materials alone could be sold for 7,000 to 8,000 spirit stones. No one present had any intention of exchanging it. After all, refining materials were not rare. Wang Daoist took out a star steel shield and asked, "Will this do?" The Wang family had a mine of star steel. When he was refining the flying boat, his 12th uncle had prepared a lot for him. Because star steel could be recycled and reused, he didn't use much. Now, he still had a few hundred kilograms of it in his space. This shield was refined from the leftover materials from refining the flying boat's core when he opened his shop in Guiyan Market. If he sold it in Guiyan Market, it would be worth about 4,000 to 5,000 spirit stones. It was a big profit to exchange it for the turtle shell. However, the Mirror Treasure Oasis was full of itinerant cultivators. There weren't many cultivators who were proficient in refining magic artifacts. The price of magic artifacts was very high. In the eyes of everyone, the turtle shell and the shield were of similar value. Chapter 306. The 7th level foundation establishment cultivator on the stage scanned the shield with his divine sense and nodded. This shield was refined with a brilliant technique. There are no obvious flaws. Exchanging the turtle shell for this shield, I've made quite a profit. Then, he walked down the stage and handed the turtle shell to Wang Daoist before taking the shield. Next, the second cultivator went on stage. He brought several supplementary herbs for the purple rhyme pill. Wang Daoist had obtained the purple rhyme pill's main ingredient, the purple rhyme dragon ginseng, but he didn't have all the supplementary herbs. He only cleared an acre of spiritual land to plant the materials for the rejuvenation pill and planted the purple rhyme dragon ginseng. The purple rhyme pill was a 3rd-grade mid-grade pill. His current alchemy skills were only at 2nd-grade high-grade, so he couldn't refine it. He only issued a reward in his family for the help of his family's disciples to find the missing supplementary herbs and the materials for the meridian shielding pill. He didn't expect to find a supplementary herb here. It seemed that the supplementary herb wasn't completely dead yet. If he planted it near the life spiritual fire, it could still be saved. This cultivator asked for 10 essence condensing pills, so Wang Daoist naturally bought it. Then, more than 10 cultivators brought things on stage, but they weren't of much value. Wang Daoist had no use for them, so he didn't bid. Most of them were taken by other cultivators, but there were a few that he couldn't exchange. After an hour, a 9th-level foundation establishment cultivator walked on stage with a jade box in his hand. The jade box was engraved with complicated restrictions. It was obvious that it wasn't an ordinary item. The things inside couldn't leak any aura. Seeing this person's solemn appearance, everyone became interested. He put the jade box on the table and undid the restrictions on the box. After half a cup of tea's time, he finally undid all the restrictions. When the box was finally opened, everyone stood up and stared at the jade box. He opened the jade box and saw a piece of jade the size of an adult's thumb. This piece of jade was enshrouded in a layer of mist. After dispelling the mist, he found that the jade was almost completely transparent. After the mist was dispelled, it quickly reappeared. Apart from that, this piece of jade didn't have anything special. It didn't even have a trace of spiritual power. Wang Daoist had never seen such a spiritual material before, so he couldn't figure out what it was. Everyone present was also a little confused, but the few Peak Foundation establishment cultivators were more knowledgeable. Ji Cheng pondered for a moment and asked, "Could this be profound ice jade marrow?" The cultivator on the stage nodded and said, "Ji Daoyu is indeed experienced and knowledgeable. This is indeed profound ice jade essence." Everyone was in an uproar. This was a legendary spiritual item. Profound ice chalcedony was born from profound ice. Therefore, profound ice was needed in order to produce profound ice chalcedony. Profound ice alone was a mid-grade or high-grade tier 2 material. Although it was called ice, it had undergone a qualitative change. Even if it was placed in a furnace, it would not melt. Such spirit materials could only be found in extremely cold places. This place of extreme cold could be the peak of an extremely high snow mountain, or it could be an underground cold spring. However, both of these were relatively rare. Most of the mysterious ice in Beiyuan Xiuxian came from the Arctic ice field. That place was the territory of the demon race. No humans lived there permanently at all. Occasionally, Some cultivators would go to the Arctic ice field to explore. The Netherworld sect traded with the demon race north of the mountain. One of the demon race's important goods was profound ice. Profound ice was already relatively rare, let alone the profound ice jade marrow that could only be born after thousands of years of nurturing in profound ice. Profound ice jade marrow contained massive amounts of ice attribute spiritual energy, but it also virtually did not leak out. Apart from a layer of thin mist on the exterior, it did not look to have any outstanding aspects. Wang Daoyuan had only heard of this thing before, but had never seen it before. Hence, he did not recognize it. Jiyu opened his mouth once more and said, "This profound ice jade marrow is extremely rare. At least a profound ice mountain is needed to have a possibility of nurturing it. Even the demon race of the Arctic ice field wanting to obtain profound ice jade marrow is also extremely difficult. How did you obtain it?" The owner of the profound ice jade marrow answered, "Because my soul was damaged, I searched everywhere for spiritual items to recover soul injuries. I once made a trip to the Arctic ice field. By chance, I obtained this piece of profound ice jade marrow." Jiyu nodded and said, "I want to personally examine the authenticity of this item." The people on the stage did not have objections either. Jiyu asked, "Everyone present, Daoyu, is there a fire attribute cultivator?" Facing this profound ice jade marrow, just casually casting a fire attribute spell will do. An 8th level foundation establishment cultivator stood up and condensed a flaming longsword, hacking towards the profound ice jade marrow. The originally ordinary profound ice jade marrow suddenly released a large amount of cold mist, enveloping the flaming longsword. The cultivator who cast the flaming longsword rapidly fled. The cold mist disappeared, only to see the flaming longsword directly frozen into an ice sculpture. This kind of situation was that the fire attribute spiritual energy had not had time to dissipate and was directly frozen by the ice attribute spiritual energy. Only extremely powerful ice attribute spiritual energy dealing with mediocre fire attribute spiritual energy would this kind of situation occur. Once the outer layer of ice melted, the fire attribute spiritual energy would also immediately dissipate. Ji Cheng walked forward and used his hand to lightly knock on the ice sculpture. The ice sculpture directly broke into several pieces, and the fire attribute spiritual energy also rapidly dissipated. Soon after, the ice on the ground also turned into an icy mist, returning to the profound ice jade marrow. Jiyu nodded and said, "It is indeed profound ice jade marrow without a doubt. Unfortunately, it is only a 1,000-year-old profound ice jade marrow, and only a 3rd-grade low-grade one." Hearing this, the others were also somewhat disappointed. Even if the profound ice jade marrow was not refined into a magic tool and was only worn on the body, it could also effectively suppress inner demons and prevent chi deviation. The Purple Mansion inner demon tribulation of an ordinary cultivator was not very dangerous, but if the person who opened up the Purple Mansion had inner demons, then the Purple Mansion inner demon tribulation would be an extremely dangerous life and death juncture. Among the rogue cultivators, who could cultivate to the point of opening up the Purple Mansion, which one of them did not have hands stained with blood? Unless they could commit crimes and still have a clear conscience. Otherwise, they would more or less have inner demons. If there was a 3rd-grade mid-grade profound ice jade marrow suppressing it, when opening up the Purple Mansion, it could be guaranteed that one would not be injured by the inner demon tribulation. This 3rd-grade low-grade profound ice jade marrow still had its effects, but it was much weaker and could not guarantee its safety. Even so, this piece of profound ice jade marrow was still very valuable. If it could be sold to an ice attribute cultivator, it wouldn't be difficult to sell it for 300,000 to 400,000 spirit stones. Everyone was eagerly watching, waiting for the cultivator on the stage to state the conditions of the exchange. The cultivator on the stage sighed and said, "I already said that I obtained this profound ice jade marrow by chance because my soul was injured. Although this profound ice jade marrow is powerful, it is unfortunately unable to heal my soul. I wish to use this profound ice jade marrow to exchange for a spiritual item that can heal soul injuries." A Peak Foundation establishment cultivator sighed and said, A spiritual item that can heal soul injuries is too difficult to find and is also extremely precious. Even if a Violet Palace realm cultivator were to see it, they would not be able to resist fighting for it. Even if someone were to obtain it, they would view it as a treasure and would not easily exchange it. In my opinion, Daoyu should make another request. To put it bluntly, since Daoyu has revealed his wealth, it would be better to exchange it. Otherwise, Daoyu will not be able to leave the Mirror Lake Oasis alive. Hearing this, the owner of the profound ice jade marrow looked up to the sky and sighed. He originally did not have any hope of recovering his soul injuries, but he was still somewhat unwilling. He came to this exchange meeting mentally prepared himself. It would be best if he could obtain a spiritual item that could heal his soul injuries, but if not, he would give up on the profound ice jade marrow and save his life. When the Peak Foundation establishment cultivator saw that he intended to give up on the spiritual item that could heal his soul, he struck while the iron was hot and said, "Daoyu, make a simple request." Just as the cultivator on the stage was about to speak, Wang Daoyuan smiled and said, "Wait." Chapter 307. The Peak Foundation establishment cultivator looked at Wang Daoyuan with ill intentions, but Wang Daoyuan didn't mind. The owner of the profound ice jade essence regained her hope and asked, "Could it be that Daoyu has a spirit item that can heal soul injuries?" Wang Daoyuan asked, "How serious are your soul injuries?" "I have the seeds of the inky jade lotus, but there aren't many of them. If Daoyu's soul is missing too much, I can't do anything about it." He was overjoyed and said, "My soul isn't missing, but I was injured by a divine sense attack, and the injury is very serious. But with the inky jade lotus, a spirit medicine that can even heal a missing soul, my injury is nothing. 2 seeds are enough, 3 will definitely be enough." Wang Daoyuan took out 3 inky jade lotus seeds and said with a smile, "What a coincidence, I just happen to have 3. How about exchanging them for your profound ice jade essence?" The cultivator immediately ran down from the stage and gave the profound ice jade essence to Wang Daoyuan, took the lotus seeds, and turned to leave. Wang Daoyuan said with a smile, "I have a precious treasure. If I go out like this, I might die on the streets. I can't make a move here." He suddenly understood and stuffed the 3 lotus seeds into his mouth. After swallowing them, he began to refine them. Once the lotus seeds were swallowed, it would be useless even if he killed someone to take the lotus seeds. The others also gave up on the idea of snatching them. But the Peak Foundation establishment cultivator who wanted the profound ice jade essence laughed with ill intentions. "Wu Daoyu is quite insightful when looking at other people's matters. Why didn't you consider yourself? You have a precious treasure, aren't you afraid of dying on the streets?" Wang Daoyuan said with disdain, "When I was still in the Qi refinement stage, I once saw a Peak Foundation establishment senior who could exchange a blow with a Zifu realm cultivator and retreat unscathed. That Zifu realm cultivator didn't just establish his Zifu, but was a veteran Zifu realm cultivator. If Daoyu has the ability, I will give you the profound ice jade essence with both hands. Without this ability, an ordinary 9th level Foundation establishment cultivator wouldn't be able to take a single strike from me. I wonder how many strikes Daoyu can take?" The Foundation establishment cultivator's expression changed, and he said coldly, "Wu Daoyu, you sure talk big." Wang Daoyuan snorted and said, "I've only been here for a few months, and I've spent most of my time in my abode. I've already killed 7 late-stage Foundation establishment cultivators, so I don't mind killing 1 more Peak Foundation establishment cultivator. Right now, there are still 5 corpses hanging at the entrance of my immortal cave. It would be a waste to continue hanging them there." This Wu has no interest in refining tools from human bones, but this interest can be cultivated. Since his persona was that of an arrogant evil cultivator, he would be arrogant to the end. Rogue cultivators were like that. The more you cowered, the more they bullied you. If you were arrogant, he really wouldn't dare to touch you, especially when Wang Daoyuan had the capital to be arrogant. Even a Peak Foundation establishment cultivator didn't have the confidence to defeat him. He snorted coldly and didn't say anything else. The person who exchanged for the mysterious ice jade essence was refining the inky jade lotus seed, so the exchange didn't continue. After an hour, the inky jade serene lotus seed was completely refined. He cupped his hands to Wang Daoyuan and said, "Thank you, Dao. My soul injury has been healed." Finished speaking, he took out a second-tier low-grade long sword and broke it with force. He handed the sword hilt to Wang Daoyuan and said, "I got the inky jade lotus seed. If it wasn't for Daoyu's reminder, I would have been killed on the street. I'm Lu Yuan, and I owe Daoyu a favor. In the future, if you have any instructions, just send someone to find me with the sword hilt. Even if I have to go through water and tread on fire, I will never refuse." Finished speaking, he put the sword into his storage bag and turned to walk out. The exchange continued. Another 9th-level Foundation establishment cultivator walked onto the stage and took out a second-tier high-grade magic weapon longsword. This thing was quite popular, but Wang Daoyuan wasn't interested. The things that the next few cultivators took out were also things that Wang Daoyuan didn't need, so he didn't make a move. After 4 hours, except for Wang Daoyuan and a few Peak Foundation establishment cultivators, everyone else had gone on stage. Jiyu said to Wang Daoyuan, "Wu Daoyu, aren't you going on stage to exchange for something?" Wang Daoyuan shook his head and said, "The things in my hands are all relatively ordinary goods. I'll wait for Daoyu to finish exchanging, then I'll go on stage." Jiyu didn't persuade anymore. He ran onto the stage and took out a beast skin book page, saying, "This is the refining method of a magic weapon that I obtained. It should be part of a refining inheritance. My brother and I don't know the way of refining, so it's useless to keep this thing, so we want to exchange it. This magic weapon, Spirit Gathering Pearl, has no combat function. It can only be used to collect scattered spiritual energy and store spiritual energy. Think about it, if you inject your spiritual energy into it in advance. During a fight, when your spiritual energy is exhausted, you can directly extract the spiritual energy in the Spirit Gathering Pearl. This spiritual energy is originally your own, so you don't need to refine it. It can completely restore your spiritual energy in an instant, and the effect is better than spirit wine. As for the exchange, second-tier high-grade magic weapons and spirit talismans are fine. Wang Daoyuan was very interested in this thing. He didn't care about storing spiritual energy to quickly restore it. He had to inject spiritual energy into the Spirit Gathering Pearl in advance, and this spiritual energy was also cultivated by himself. Doing so would be a waste of time. With the spirit wine, he didn't really need the Spirit Gathering Pearl to restore spiritual energy in a fight. What Wang Daoyuan really valued was its ability to absorb scattered spiritual energy and turn it into usable spiritual energy. This was equivalent to a reusable spirit stone. Usually, it was placed in a place with rich spiritual energy to absorb spiritual energy. After absorbing it, it could be used to cultivate, to set up formations, or to drive the flying boat. In this way, how many spirit stones could he save for the family? The specific value still depended on the speed at which he absorbed spiritual energy, as well as the amount of spiritual energy stored. Even if these two aspects weren't much, as long as it had this function, it could be used as a foundation to continue improving. This thing had to be obtained. Even if it was exchanged by others, he had to kill them to seize the treasure. He wanted it very much in his heart, but he couldn't show it too obviously. He asked, "May I ask Daoyu, how much spiritual energy can this Spirit Gathering Pearl store? Also, introduce the grade of this Spirit Gathering Pearl, as well as the materials used. Without knowing these, how can we determine the value of this magic weapon?" Jiyu smiled rather awkwardly and said, "The spiritual energy stored in this Spirit Gathering Pearl is roughly twice as much as middle-grade spirit stones. The grade is second-tier high-grade, but the material requirement isn't high. Second-tier high-grade spirit jades will do." Everyone lost interest at once. Second-tier middle-grade spirit stones were enough to activate formations and the like. But using it to restore spiritual energy, the disparity was a bit big. A late-stage Foundation establishment cultivator wouldn't even be able to last half a cup of tea's time in an all-out battle with a middle-grade spirit stone. The hope of using this thing to reverse the battle situation wasn't high. It was just an extra chance to escape. On the contrary, Wang Daoyuan was very satisfied. As long as the spiritual energy stored in this spirit-gathering pearl wasn't too inferior to middle-grade spirit stones, it could be used on spirit ships and formations. The amount of spiritual energy stored was twice that of a mid-grade spirit stone, which had already exceeded his original expectations. As for the problem of absorbing spiritual energy, even if the absorption was too slow, he could still refine more spirit-gathering pearls and use them as substitutes. Wang Daoyuan took out a second-tier high-grade magic weapon longsword and asked, "How about this longsword?" He slaughtered 7 late-stage Foundation establishment cultivators at the Mirror Treasure Lake Oasis and seized 7 second-tier high-grade magic longswords. Lu Zong's longsword was left for him to continue using, and the other 6 could all be exchanged. Ji was just about to agree when the Peak Foundation establishment cultivator who wanted the Mystic Ice Chalcedony earlier also took out 2 long swords and said, "I also want to compete." Finished speaking, he even gave Wang Daoyuan a provocative glance. Wang Daoyuan took out 2 long swords again and said, "You can continue to raise the price, but I won't raise the price anymore. If I can't get it from Daoyu, I'll take it from you for free. Let's see if Daoyu's Immortal's Cave's defensive formation can block me, a second-tier high-grade formation master." Chapter 308. The Peak Foundation establishment cultivator did not have the confidence to defeat Wang Daoyuan and was afraid that he would really come to kill him, so he did not increase the price. As for itinerant cultivators to be able to cultivate to this extent, which one of them did not drag out an ignoble existence. Compared to their little lives, face was nothing. Wang Daoyuan used 3 high-grade Tier 2 magic artifact longswords to exchange for the refining method of the spirit-gathering bead. Jiyu walked down from the stage and handed the Beast Skin Book page to Wang Daoyuan and put away the 3 high-grade Tier 2 longswords. Wang Daoyuan stored the Beast Skin Book page into the spirit bead space and handed it to his clone Lu Zong to check. He and the clone were telepathically connected. After Lu Zong finished checking, he also knew the contents. This spirit-gathering bead's refining method did not seem to be perfect. It should just be a draft. The creator also just barely managed to refine it. He casually looked at it and discovered many shortcomings. This was good news, but also bad news. The good side was that this magic artifact's room for growth was very large. As long as it was perfected, its function would have a huge improvement. The bad side was that this spirit-gathering bead might also have all sorts of problems after refining it. If it was used on a flying boat and a problem suddenly occurred, the flying boat might fall. Not mentioning the loss of several tens of thousands of spirit stones, the signboard would also be ruined. If used on a defensive array formation, if the enemy was attacking the array formation and a problem suddenly occurred, then the loss was not something that could be measured in spirit stones. However, this spirit-gathering bead also had many areas that made him feel pleasantly surprised. The entire spirit-gathering bead's diameter was actually only 3 inches. Such a small spirit-gathering bead could actually store twice the spiritual energy of middle-grade spirit stones. This showed that the method of storing spiritual energy inside was very brilliant. Artifact patterns that stored spiritual energy were very common. Any random jade box could have quite a few, but the brilliant ones were really not many. The thing that exceeded his expectations the most was the spirit-gathering artifact pattern on the spirit-gathering bead. This was an artifact pattern that Wang Daoyuan did not grasp. Grasping a new kind of artifact pattern could be used on magic artifacts in the future. Just the spirit-gathering artifact pattern's value far surpassed 3 high-grade Tier 2 flying swords. Spirit-gathering artifact pattern and spirit-gathering formation had the same function, but the value could not be mentioned in the same breath. Spirit-gathering formation was a basic array formation. Using spirit-gathering formation to collect spiritual energy was very simple. Spirit-gathering formation patterns were often used when refining formation discs. However, the spirit-gathering rune was very unusual. He had never heard of it before. It should have been created by the creator of this beast-skin spirit-gathering bead. Although the jade pendant that old ancestor Yang gave him back then also had the function of absorbing spiritual energy, it relied on the characteristics of the material itself, not the spirit-gathering pattern. Wang Daoyuan had never seen pill veins before, so he did not know what they looked like. Tool inscriptions, talisman inscriptions, and formation inscriptions were all similar, but they were also very different. All three of them had basic inscriptions. If the same 100 basic inscriptions were used to form tool inscriptions, formation inscriptions, and talisman inscriptions, the difference in power would be huge. A rune formed from 100 basic runes could be used to refine a high-grade Tier 2 spirit talisman. The power it could unleash was comparable to a spell cast by a late Foundation establishment cultivator. The tool pattern formed by the combination of 100 basic tool patterns could only be used to forge a level 1 magic artifact. The power of a single high-grade Tier 2 talisman was enough to shatter 4 or 5 of these magic tools. 100 basic formation inscriptions were not even qualified to form a formation. Among the same number of basic inscriptions, rune inscriptions could unleash the greatest lethality. However, inscriptions of spirit energy and spirit consciousness were required to draw rune inscriptions. This caused rune inscriptions to be extremely unstable. Even if they were not triggered, they could not be preserved for long periods of time. If no special means were used to seal them, they would be scrapped after a few decades. If a tool inscriptions were used to unleash the power of a high-grade Tier 2 spirit talisman, approximately 10,000 basic inscriptions would be required. However, tool inscriptions could be preserved for a long period of time. A high-grade Tier 2 magic artifact could be preserved for thousands of years if it was not damaged or in a special environment. To unleash the power of a high-grade Tier 2 spirit talisman with formation inscriptions, at least 100,000 or even hundreds of thousands of basic inscriptions would be required. The preservation time of formation inscriptions was related to the frequency of usage. If they were not used, it would not be a problem for them to be preserved for thousands of years. Inscriptions of formation inscriptions were simple and did not have high requirements for materials. Among the three types of inscriptions, talisman inscriptions were the most difficult to inscribe. They had to be completed in one go and were the most powerful, but the hardest to preserve. Inscriptions of tool inscriptions were much easier than inscriptions of talisman inscriptions. They did not have to be completed in one go, and mistakes could be made up for. Their power was lower than talisman inscriptions, but higher than formation inscriptions. However, tool inscriptions had to be inscribed on magic artifacts, which had high requirements for materials. Inscriptions of formation inscriptions were the least difficult and mistakes could be made. They could be modified at any time and did not have to be completed in one go. Setting up an array did not have high requirements for materials. If one failed too many times, the materials could no longer be used and one could simply change to another material. Formation inscriptions were the least powerful and could not be preserved for the longest. It took too long to set up an array and could not be used effectively. Other than the fact that the materials were cheap, it did not seem to have any advantages. However, formation inscriptions had three advantages that talisman inscriptions and tool inscriptions could not compare to. Firstly, formation inscriptions could be set up on a large scale. The formation that Wang Daoyuan set up on Jadesong Mountain covered the entire mountain and stretched for hundreds of miles. If the power of a magic artifact was used to envelop Jadesong Mountain, even a grade 4 magic artifact would find it difficult to do so. The 5 Elements Dragonlock formation was an upper grade Tier 2 array and it was easily done. Tool inscriptions had to be inscribed on precious tool embryos and could not be made too big. Secondly, the tool inscriptions had to be concentrated. The basic tool inscriptions that formed the tool inscriptions had to be extremely close to each other to unleash a certain function. If they were too far away, the circulation of spirit energy would not be smooth. Formation inscriptions could connect two formation cores that were a few hundred miles apart. It was difficult for tool inscriptions to connect inscriptions that were a few feet apart, let alone a few hundred miles. As for talisman inscriptions, they could not even be more than a foot apart. Secondly, it was inclusive. Using formation inscriptions to set up the framework of an array could be combined with various items to unleash its power. For example, Dermic artifact array formation was to place the Dermic artifact on the framework of an array formation and unleash the power of the Dermic artifact through the array formation. High-grade talismans could also be used multiple times and could be used to hold the line like Dermic artifacts. Cultivators could also make use of the array formation to unleash Dermic arts that were far more powerful than their own. Thirdly, the array formation could be connected to spirit veins and could completely ignore the consumption of spirit energy. Tools, talismans, and arrays each had their own advantages and disadvantages, which was why they could coexist until now. However, none of them could completely suppress the other two. If the spirit gathering pearl was placed in a place with dense spirit energy, the spirit gathering inscriptions could be unleashed to the maximum and it would only take 3 days for it to be filled with spirit energy. In order for the array inscriptions to be unleashed, too many basic array inscriptions were required. With such a powerful spirit gathering ability, if a spirit gathering array was used to achieve the spirit gathering ability, the pearl's diameter would be a few feet long and it would not have any value at all. The inscriptions were unstable and it was very difficult to use them on Dermic artifacts. Using the tool inscriptions to achieve the spirit gathering ability would reduce the spirit gathering pearl's diameter to 3 inches and it could completely replace middle-grade spirit stones. Moreover, the pearl could be enlarged without affecting its use, increasing the amount of spirit energy stored and increasing the speed of spirit gathering. When he returned, he had to study the spirit gathering pearl carefully. This item did not have much meaning to an individual, but it was simply a treasure to a faction. Most of the places that required spirit stones could be replaced with spirit gathering pearls. It was very important to control costs when doing business. With the spirit gathering pearl, the cost of transportation could be reduced by more than 90%. In this way, the Wang family could save tens of thousands of spirit stones every year. In the future, when the family's transportation business expanded, they could save even more spirit stones. If they could mass-produce spirit-gathering pearls and let the family members use them to cultivate, the family would not need to consume spirit stones at all. Of course, this was just a dream. The difficulty of refining spirit-gathering pearls was very high. Even if the requirements for the materials were low, it was still difficult to mass-produce them. Chapter 309. The other cultivators continued to display their items on the stage. However, there was nothing that Wang Daoyuan urgently needed, so he did not make a move. Soon, everyone except him had displayed their items on the stage. Ji Qing smiled. Wu Dao, you're the only one left now. Wang Daoyuan did not say anything. He walked to the front of the stage and took out a pile of items. I have a total of 300 pieces of high-grade Tier 2 defensive spirit talismans and escape techniques. I have 100 essence condensation pills, soul strengthening pills, rejuvenation pills, and detoxification pills. I also have a set of 5 elements array discs and 10 high-grade Tier 2 offensive and defensive Dharma artifacts. I can exchange them for various high-grade Tier 2 materials, special types of Dharma artifacts, Tier 3 elixir, artifact, and talisman array inheritances. I can also accept the refinement method of special Dharma artifacts like the Spirit Gathering Pearl. It would be even better if you have higher grade materials. If you don't have these, you can also exchange them with spirit stones according to the market price. Everyone present was stunned. After a long time, Ji Qing asked, "What does Wu Daoyu do for a living? Why do you have so many things with you?" Together, these things are worth more than 200,000 spirit stones. Wang Daoyuan smiled. I make a living by selling these things. I work with some shops in a few big markets to purchase these materials in bulk and sell them at places like Mirror Treasure Lake at a high price. Then, I buy the raw materials and sell them to the shops that work with me, earning the difference. Everyone understood. There were many factions around the big markets and many people who were proficient in the various arts of cultivation. Elixirs, spirit talismans, and the like were not worth much. Places like Mirror Treasure Lake and Green Willow region were mainly itinerant cultivators. They were rich in resources but lacked people who were proficient in the various arts of cultivation. Elixirs and spirit talismans were expensive, but the raw materials were cheap. There were many cultivators who ran back and forth to earn the difference. It was rare to see a hawker like Wang Daoyuan who was so generous. However, there was nothing unreasonable about it. After all, the more goods one brought, the higher the profit. Especially at such an exchange, there were no middlemen to earn the difference by exchanging the finished goods for materials. Of course, the higher the profit, the higher the probability of being intercepted. As the saying goes, the skilled are bold. Since he dared to carry something worth hundreds of thousands of spirit stones, there was no need to talk about his strength. Although the things in Wang Daoyuan's hands were ordinary, as long as one was a foundation-building cultivator, they would inevitably use them. All of the cultivators there came forward to exchange for resources. Wang Daoyuan also received a considerable number of items. However, most of them were ordinary high-grade Grade 2 artifact forging materials. There was also a piece of low-grade Grade 3 cinnabar ore. Other than that, there were only spirit stones. I wonder if Daoyu still has the inky jade lotus seed? If there is, I'm willing to use Tier 3 refining materials to exchange with Daoyu, asked Jicheng. Wang Daoyuan smiled and said, in my early years, my soul was also damaged and I searched everywhere for a way to treat it. In the end, he found a few while exploring an ancient cultivator's cave. After healing his soul, he was left with 3. I've already traded it to Daoyu with Lu Yuan just now. Now, it's really gone. Although he could usually eat the inky jade lotus seed as snacks and used to eat dozens of seeds a day, he could not expose too much of it. That peak foundation building cultivator asked maliciously, Daoyu has such good stuff, but you didn't plant a few? Wang Daoyuan sneered and said, planting the inky jade lotus requires a lot of yin qi. Could it be that you have a lot of yin qi in your hands? As far as I know, the only places that produce natural yin qi are the Mystic Yin Spring in the north of the mountain and the Darkwater River in the south of the mountain. The yin qi in the Mystic Yin Spring has a baleful aura and can't be used to plant the inky jade lotus. The Darkwater River in the south of the mountain is where the Netherworld sect is located. The yin qi has been taken away by the Netherworld sect. I really don't know where there is still a lot of yin qi. Could it be that Daoyu has grasped the unknown source of yin qi? If so, I'm willing to buy yin qi at a high price. The peak foundation building cultivator did not speak anymore. He originally wanted others to attack Wang Daoyuan, but he did not expect to be bitten back. If he grasped the source of yin qi, the evil cultivator's cultivation would advance by leaps and bounds. For people whose souls were not damaged, the value was much higher than the inky jade lotus seed. He did not dare to continue to pester, lest he be remembered by the evil cultivator. Although Wang Daoyuan did not have a special magic weapon or a magic weapon refining method, it was not a wasted trip. This batch of refining materials added up to more than 300,000 spirit stones. Adding a few tens of thousands of spirit stones, the total value was more than 400,000 spirit stones. Using more than 200,000 spirit stones to exchange for more than 400,000 spirit stones of raw materials. When Zhao Baoguo was reselling materials in the Green Willow State, he sold them at 3 times the price. Wang Daoyuan could be said to be a good price. Even so, he still earned nearly 200,000 spirit stones. These raw materials, if all of them were refined into magic weapons, it was possible to double the value. However, it would take a lot of time. Wang Daoyuan would not do this. It was good to leave it to Zhao Liang, that unlucky guy. Now that he had the profound ice jade essence, although it could not completely suppress the heart demon tribulation of opening the purple mansion, suppressing a heart demon during foundation building was not a piece of cake. After killing Qinji, he would return to the family and help Zhao Liang reach foundation building. Before he left Jadesong Mountain, Zhao Liang was already a middle-grade rank 2 refiner. In recent years, he did not know if he had reached high-grade rank 2. With the profound ice jade essence, there was no need to be afraid of heart demons. Foundation building was not difficult for Zhao Liang. After foundation building, his spiritual sense cultivation would also advance by leaps and bounds. Becoming a high-grade rank 2 refiner was definitely not a problem. At that time, these refining materials would be given to him to refine. All the cultivators' exchanges were completed. The exchange meeting ended and everyone dispersed. Wang Daoyuan also walked down the platform and walked towards the door. Jiyu smiled and said, "Wu Dao, please wait. Us two brothers have important matters to discuss with Daoyu." Wang Daoyuan stopped his footsteps and asked doubtfully, "I've not known the two Daoyu for long. I wonder what important matters you have to discuss with me?" Daoyu coming to the Treasure Mirror Lake Oasis is also not entirely for the sake of selling resources, right? Jiyu asked. When he first arrived at the Treasure Mirror Lake, he inquired about the matter of refining corpses that appeared over 10 years ago. In addition, Daoyu's cultivation method also cultivates yin energy. This Ji boldly guesses that Daoyu's goal is also the thing underground over there. Wang Daoyuan smiled and said, "Your guess is very accurate. I'm interested in the thing below, but it's also not necessary. If it hinders the two of you, I'll leave. Although the two Daoyu's strength isn't weak, I'm absolutely not a match if you guys join hands. But if I want to leave, you guys can't make me stay either." At this time, he was already preparing to cast the Divine Fire Burning Heaven art. Condensing the Divine Bird Bifong Phantom and releasing the Returning Dust Flame, this restaurant should not be able to hold on for 100 breaths. Even if there were defensive array formations and array formations, as long as it was an array formation below rank 3, it was just decorations in front of the returning dust flame. Seeing that Wang Daoyuan was abnormally vigilant, looking like he was about to make a move, Ji Cheng hurriedly smiled obsequiously and said, "Dao, you must be joking. The two of us brothers don't have any malicious intentions. Instead, we want to invite Daoyu to join." Daoyu also knows that more than a dozen late-stage Foundation establishment cultivators went down, as well as rank 3 magic artifacts that restrained refined corpses, but they all failed to come up. Just the two of us brothers going down is also courting death. Therefore, the two of us brothers want to invite more fellow Daoists to go up. Daoyu's strength far surpasses those in the same rank. Even if it's me, I might not be Daoyu's match in a one-on-one duel. That day, when you instantly killed a 9th-level Foundation establishment cultivator, us brothers had the intention of roping him in. It's just that Daoyu's guard was too heavy and was unwilling to accept the invitation to come. That's why it was only until today that we discussed this matter with Daoyu. If we cooperate, it's not impossible. Wang Daoyuan pondered and said, "It's just that there might be rank 3 refined corpses underground. If the two of you don't have the confidence to deal with them, I don't dare to court death." Jiyu said with a smile, "Dao, don't worry. We've long made preparations and also recruited many Daoyu with decent strength. We also have some preparations to deal with rank 3 refined corpses. Although rank 3 refined corpses' strength is far above ours, they can't fly after all, and they're afraid of fire. We plan on using the middle-grade rank 3 Vermilion Bird Divine Fire Array to kill the rank 3 refined corpses." Chapter 310. Wang Daoyuan pondered for a moment and said, "I don't know how many Daoyu invited, but to be able to keep a dozen or so Foundation establishment cultivators, it's very likely that there's more than one rank 3 refined corpse. As far as I know, the Vermilion Bird Divine Fire Formation has a total of 18 formation eyes, divided into 2 layers, inner and outer. Each layer has 9 formation eyes. Even if it's set up with formation plates, there are still 18 formation plates. The pressure on the inner layer isn't great, so there's no need to arrange for experts to guard it. The outer layer must be guarded by cultivators to prevent the refined corpses from destroying the formation plates. The cultivators guarding the outer layer must be able to exchange a few blows with the rank 3 low-grade refined corpses to stall for time, allowing the cultivators overseeing the core to have time to activate the formation to attack. These cultivators will inevitably be injured, so there's still a need to replace the injured cultivators. In addition, although the formation plate's setting up speed is fast, even with the cooperation of many people, it'll still take more than 100 breaths of time. The rank 3 refined corpses won't just watch. Thus, before the formation is set up, they must delay the refined corpses for 100 breaths. In this way, if there aren't any special methods, there'll be at least 20 peak foundation establishment cultivators. If there are fewer people, even with the vermilion bird divine fire formation, it'll be hard to guarantee complete safety. Wu Daoyu really is an expert. Jiyu stroked his beard and smiled. Just by hearing the name, you've pretty much explained the tactics we've arranged in advance. We've prepared 20 people, of which 10 are peak foundation establishment, 9 are 9th level foundation establishment, and 1 is 7th level foundation establishment. If Daoyu can join, that'll be 21 people. 21 peak foundation establishment cultivators in addition to a low-grade rank 3 magic tool that restrains refined corpses. Daoyu should be relieved, right? Wang Daoyuan nodded. If so, there's still a lot of hope. I can participate, but I'll say the ugly words first. I definitely won't be a scapegoat. Even if it's scouting, we'll have to take turns. If things don't work out, I'll definitely be the first to run. At that time, don't say I'm not loyal. Jiyu smiled. That's of course. Daoyu's spiritual sense cultivation is high. No one can compare to the previous 20 people. Furthermore, he was proficient in formations. With such strength, how could he let Daoyu scout the way? If things really can't be done, then we'll naturally sweep the snow in front of our door and escape with our own abilities. How can we care about others? Wang Daoyuan pondered for a moment and said, if that's the case, then I'm willing to join. However, I'm very curious. Who is this 7th level foundation establishment cultivator with peak foundation establishment battle prowess? Daoyu? Ji Cheng replied, it seems like Daoyu is determined to win. This 7th level foundation establishment Daoyu is called Zhou Xian. This person's spiritual sense cultivation is also very high, comparable to us two brothers, but slightly inferior to Daoyu. His bearing and bearing are completely unlike that of a rogue cultivator. I've seen many disciples of clans and sects, but I've never seen anyone who can compare to him in bearing. According to my judgment, this person should be a direct disciple of some great power who came out to gain experience. Wang Daoyuan immediately guessed this person's identity. It was the person he had met when renting a shop at Guiyan Market. He did not even change his name. Coupled with his extraordinary bearing and the fact that he had peak foundation establishment battle prowess at the 7th level, it should be him. With this person joining us, our chances of success will be much higher. Wang Daoyuan smiled and said, how can any disciple of a great power not have a powerful protective item when they go out to gain experience? If there's any danger, we'll have to rely on this person's protective item to save our lives. Right? Have you decided on the time of the operation? Ji Cheng nodded and said, we've set the time of the operation to be a month later. Daoyu is almost ready. Now that you've just joined us, you need to get used to it. When do you think it's a good time to take action? Wang Daoyuan waved his hand and said, I don't need to prepare anything. I know how to defend the vermilion bird divine fire array like the back of my hand. I'm a water element cultivator and am not suitable to guard the core of the array. At most, I can guard the outer array disk. Since I don't need to command the other cultivators, there's nothing for me to get used to. As long as you tell me the specific operation plan that you've formulated, I'll know how to cooperate after taking a look. Ji Cheng handed him a jade slip and said, this is the plan that we've formulated. If Daoyu doesn't have any objections, we'll take action a month later. Wang Daoyuan received the jade slip. In order to prevent any tricks from being played, he released all his spirit consciousness and poured it into the jade slip. This way, even if there were tricks in the jade slip, as long as the cultivator playing tricks did not have a spirit consciousness cultivation that was far superior to his, they would not be able to harm him. He did not shy away from showing his distrust, causing the Ji brothers to smile bitterly. Wang Daoyuan scanned through the contents of the jade slip. There were no problems with the plan. 10 peak foundation establishment cultivators walked at the front with inferior grade 3 dermic weapons and grade 3 spirit talismans while the others followed at the back with array discs. After the peak foundation establishment cultivators stalled the refined corpses, the cultivators at the back immediately began to set up array discs. Finally, a Fire Element Peak Foundation Establishment Cultivator guarded the core array disk. The other 9 Peak Foundation Establishment Cultivators guarded the 9 array disks on the outer layer. The cultivators below Peak Foundation Establishment would support the outer layer at any time to stall the refined corpses and buy time for the array to attack. Alternatively, they would replace the injured Peak Foundation Establishment Cultivators to guard the array disks. There were no problems with the plan, but they lacked understanding of the secret realm and did not know that there were level 4 refined corpses sleeping below. If they caused too much of a commotion and alerted these ancestors, the number of people who went down would be the same number who would die. Fortunately, these refined corpses were not controlled by anyone and could only move by instinct. They also relied on aura to find their targets. Living people all carried aura of life. When the refined corpses were not controlled, they would chase after their targets as long as they smelled the aura of life. Wang Daoyuan's water element spirit energy contained pure yin qi. By using pure yin qi to cover his entire body, he could conceal his aura of life. This secret realm was filled with yin qi and was suitable for him to hide. As long as he did not move around randomly, the refined corpses would not discover him. As for the others, he did not care if they lived or died since they were unrelated to him. Zhou Xian was a little troublesome. If he died in the secret realm, he might be implicated. However, he was a direct disciple of the Archaic Mysteries sect and definitely had something that could save his life. He was also proficient in the aura-gazing technique and was good at seeking luck and avoiding calamity. He should have no problem protecting himself. After reading for a few minutes, Wang Daoyuan returned the Jade Scroll. Ji Qing asked, "May I ask if Wu Daoyu has any opinions on this plan so that we can revise it?" Wang Daoyuan shook his head and said, "There are no problems with the plan. This is the best we can do against the refined corpses with the Vermilion Bird Divine Fire formation. The only uncertainty is how many level 3 inferior grade corpses there are below. If there are 3 to 5 of them, we can use this formation to deal with them. If there are a dozen or so, we should run away as soon as possible. Also, I need to remind the 2 Daoyu. Since the refined corpses can stay below for a long time, it means that they like the environment below. An environment that the refined corpses like is either extremely rich in yin qi or extremely rich in evil qi. The power of the Vermilion Bird Divine Fire formation might be weakened by the environment. The 2 Daoyu have to be careful." Ji Qing said with a smile, "Fellow Daoist Wu is indeed thoughtful. We had considered this problem before, so we prepared some spirit talismans and dharma artifacts to resist yin qi and baneful qi. That's all we can do now. Man proposes, but God disposes. We have already done our best. The rest is up to God's will." Chapter 311. After discussing the departure time, Wang Daoyuan left the restaurant and returned to his cave residence, waiting for the arrival of the departure day. 3 days later, a 7th level Foundation Establishment Cultivator came to the door of the cave residence. He shouted, "Wu Daoyu, your old friend Zhou Xian is here to visit." This grandson really came. So what if he's here, but he's still shouting? I can't ignore him. Otherwise, this grandson will reveal everything about me. Helpless, I opened the door of the cave residence and said, "Dao, please come in." Zhou Xian walked into the cave abode and did not regard himself as an outsider at all. He took a futon and sat down. Wang Daoyuan closed the door and smiled. "Daoyu really is Daoyu. I heard from Ji Daoyu that there's a 7th level Foundation Establishment Cultivator whose strength is comparable to a Peak Foundation Establishment Cultivator. He also has an extraordinary bearing, so I immediately thought of you. The son of a rich family should not sit under the awning. Daoyu's body is priceless. Why would you get involved in this?" Zhou Xian replied, "I'm Zhou Xian, surnamed Zhou, not Xian. Daoyu isn't someone who lacks resources, so isn't he here too? No one would complain about having too many treasures. A secret realm that can cultivate refined corpses definitely has a lot of yin qi. It's very likely that it can nurture treasures useful for the soul. Even golden core ancestors would drool over such things. let alone us foundation establishment cultivators. Wang Daoyuan participated in the secret realm exploration for two reasons. One was to lure Qinji out, and the other was to find treasures useful for the soul. Although he had the inky jade lotus, it was only useful for the soul of a foundation establishment cultivator. At the Zifu realm, the soul would transform into the divine soul, and the inky jade lotus could only be used to improve the divine soul. He nodded and said, "That's true. I also want to find treasures that can improve the divine soul. However, I still have to advise Daoyu that there might be a 4th-level refined corpse. Although you have a lot of life-saving methods, can you survive a 4th-level refined corpse? If something were to happen to you, I would be killed by those old fortune-tellers of your family even if I made it out alive. Daoyu should try not to go down if you can." However, Zhou Xian did not seem to care at all. He said, "If it was before, I wouldn't have dared to go down. But now that Daoyu is here, I dare to go down." Hearing his words, Wang Daoyuan was somewhat curious and asked, "What do you mean? Could it be that Daoyu performed a divination on me and saw that my life would not be in danger?" Zhou Xian replied, "I came early. I was already involved half a year ago. At that time, I secretly looked at the providence of the other cultivators." Dark clouds loomed over their heads, as if a great disaster was about to befall them. However, within the dark clouds, there was a trace of red light that split the dark clouds apart. This meant that there was a chance of survival. I patiently stayed behind to see if there was any chance of survival. After Daoyu came to the Mirror Lake Oasis, I looked at those people's providence and found that there was a great change. Originally, there was only a chance of survival with the dark clouds looming over their heads. Now, their providence was half red and half black. This was a mixture of life and death. Most rogue cultivators would not have a tomorrow, and their providence was like this. To explore such a dangerous place, it was already very good to have a mixture of life and death. Therefore, I speculated that this change was caused by Daoyu. I came here today to see Daoyu's providence. Daoyu won't refuse, right? Wang Daoyuan smiled. Before doing something big, it's not a bad idea to find a fortune-teller. At least I have a plan in mind. Hearing this, Zhou Xian's eyes turned purple as he looked at Wang Daoyuan. After 5 breaths, his eyes returned to normal. He smiled and said, "Daoyu's providence is indeed prosperous. Even a golden core cultivator can only have one golden cloud formed by providence. Last time at the Guiyan market, I noticed that Daoyu had a golden cloud above his head, and he had a chance of becoming a golden core cultivator. I didn't expect that Daoyu's providence would increase again, and the golden cloud above his head would turn slightly purple. This kind of providence could only be possessed by the half-step Yuanian cultivators of the major factions. However, there were 2 streaks of blood in Daoyu's golden cloud, which meant that Daoyu had encountered 2 calamities in a short period of time. The streak of blood that was closer to him was lighter, and it should be from this calamity. This streak of blood did not go deep into the golden cloud, and it was intermittent. It was a sign that there was no danger. The other streak of blood was deeper, and it went deep into the golden cloud. Daoyu's life might be in danger in this calamity. However, it was still some time from now. It was 10 years short and 20 years long. He could not tell what the exact situation was. However, there were peach blossoms in this streak of blood. Even if Daoyu's calamity was not a peach blossom calamity, it was related to women. Daoyu, don't provoke women for the next 30 years. This is just a guess based on the current situation. Providence is also constantly changing. There is no dead end in this world. No matter how difficult the situation is, there is always a chance of survival. My attainment in Qi art is not high, so this is all I can tell." Wang Daoyuan smiled and said, "With Daoyu's words, I am much more at ease. I have been a pure young cultivator for more than 100 years. Why would I provoke women for no reason? I am very confident that I will not encounter any calamities related to women." The 2 chatted for a while, and Zhou Xian left the cave residence. Wang Daoyuan continued to make some preparations. He forged a few protective artifacts, and sometimes went to the market to buy some materials and spiritual herb seeds. Most of the spiritual herbs here were suitable for growing in the desert. In the Wang family's territory, only the central region of the Five Elements mystery realm was suitable for growing them. More than 20 days passed in a flash. Soon, it was time to depart. Everyone gathered on the third floor of the Jinghu restaurant. When Wang Daoyuan arrived, he realized that everyone was familiar. Other than Zhou Xian, everyone else had participated in the exchange. Since Zhou Xian could learn the qi art, it must be a direct disciple. He did not care for the items that appeared in the small exchange. Even the Peak Foundation establishment cultivator who repeatedly caused trouble for Wang Daoyuan at the exchange was here. This old man was quite obedient now. He knew that Wang Daoyuan was not to be trifled with. Since they were going to explore the underground, he was afraid of being ambushed. Everyone knew the plan, so there was no need to say anything. After the Ji brothers said a few words, they led the group and set off. The 21 people did not fly over with great fanfare. Instead, they split up and gathered at the entrance. Zhou Xian followed Wang Daoyuan like a dogskin plaster. The qi art could not look at one's own luck. Only by following someone with great luck could one stay alive. He believed that Wang Daoyuan would be safe. Following Wang Daoyuan was the safest. Wang Daoyuan did not care. If this grandson died, he would be implicated. If possible, he still wanted to protect him. Moreover, Zhou Xian was not a burden. He was a strong helper. The direct disciple of a large sect like the Archaic Mysteries sect was definitely much stronger than the direct disciple of the Cruel Sun Palace. Zhou Xian's strength was not below his. Furthermore, he had many trump cards. It was hard to say who would protect who. A distance of 200 miles was just a short distance for a late Foundation establishment cultivator. Even if they had to take a detour, it would not take much effort. After an hour, everyone arrived at the place where they found the refined corpse. More than 10 years had passed. The cave entrance had long been buried by the wind and sand. Since everyone knew the exact location, there was no need to search. An Earth Elemental Level 9 Foundation establishment cultivator walked forward. He used the earth splitting technique to clear the sand around the cave entrance, revealing the cave entrance below. As soon as the cave entrance was opened, more than 10 refined corpses appeared. They were the disciples of the underworld sect who died below. These guys were refined into refined corpses. They had only been nurtured for more than 10 years and did not have much combat power. After coming out, they were all killed in less than 10 breaths. Chapter 312. After cleaning up the rank 2 refined corpses, the 10 Peak Foundation establishment cultivators walked to the front. The Ji brothers were among them. Ji Cheng held a bell, while Jiu held a stack of talismans. There were 3 Peak Foundation establishment cultivators holding rank 2 upper-grade peachwood swords. Wang Daoyuan had never killed a refined corpse before, but he heard that refined corpses were afraid of peachwood and fire attribute artifacts. There were no fire attribute spiritual woods in the spirit pearl, but there were many golden jade peaches. He took out a rank 2 upper-grade long sword made of golden jade peaches from the spirit pearl and held it in his hand. Zhou Xian transmitted his voice. Wu Dao, give me a peachwood sword too. I don't have anything to defend myself with. Wang Daoyuan also transmitted his voice back. A direct disciple of a top power in Beiyuan Xiaoxian without anything to defend yourself with? Are you joking with me? Zhou Xian was a little embarrassed. The things given to me by the elders are too eye-catching. It's not good to take them out directly. The artifacts I made myself aren't that good. Wang Daoyuan couldn't be bothered to continue arguing with him. He took out a rank 2 upper-grade peachwood sword from the spirit pearl and handed it to Zhou Xian. Seeing him take out 2 peachwood swords, Jiu asked, Wu Daoyu, do you have any more peachwood swords? This thing has a very good restraining effect on refined corpses. If you have more, take them all out. We'll use spirit stones and other things to exchange with Daoyu. Wang Daoyuan replied, these 2 peachwood swords were also refined from the trunk of a second-grade high-grade spirit peach that I chanced upon previously. There are only these 2 swords. Moreover, I didn't want to use them against refined corpses. There are no tool patterns on them. Relying only on peachwood swords won't have a strong restraining effect on refined corpses. I took them out to boost my courage. Seeing that he wasn't willing to take out the peachwood swords, Jiyu didn't continue to pester him. After all, they were neither relatives nor friends. Against rank 3 refined corpses, a few more peachwood swords wouldn't be of much use. After the Peak Foundation establishment cultivator finished his preparations, he took the lead and entered the cave. Wang Daoyuan and the others followed closely behind. The cave was only a few hundred feet deep. After reaching the bottom of the cave, there was a huge stone room with a diameter of over 20 feet. On one side of the wall, there was a pitch-black door. Although this portal was not very similar to the 2 mystic realms Wang Daoyuan had seen before, it felt similar. It was a bit like the feeling of taking something out of the space of the spirit pearl. Perhaps it was called spatial fluctuation. Wisps of yin qi could be seen emanating from the door. A Peak Foundation establishment cultivator with a peachwood sword walked to the door and took out an inferior grade 3 spirit talisman. He hung it on his sword and extended the peachwood sword through the door. Then, a wave of spiritual energy flickered on the peachwood sword. Wang Daoyuan sighed in his heart. These rogue cultivators were really experienced. A cultivator's divine sense couldn't pass through the secret realm's door. If there was an ambush behind the door, the outside world wouldn't be able to discover it. He might as well use his magic tool to trigger the talisman and launch a wave of indiscriminate attacks on the door. After the talisman detonated, the cultivator pasted a few earth armor talismans on himself and passed through the door into the mystic realm. The other Peak Foundation establishment cultivators also quickly passed through the door. All of this took only 5 breaths of time to complete. Next, it was the turn of the level 9 Foundation establishment cultivators to enter. Wang Daoyuan pasted more than 10 superior grade 2 earth armor talismans on himself before entering with the others. Zhou Xian was even more cowardly than him. He pasted a few defensive talismans on himself and followed at the back. After entering the door, there was a huge flat ground in front of them. It was very dark in the mystic realm. It felt like the sun had already set in the evening, but the sky was not completely dark yet. Even with the eyesight of a Foundation establishment cultivator, they could only see up to 200 feet away. Their divine senses could only reach up to 100 feet away. The 9 level 9 Foundation establishment cultivators began to set up formation plates as soon as they entered. Among the 9 of them, there was a formation master commanding, so there was no need for Wang Daoyuan to participate. The 10 Peak Foundation establishment cultivators were already fighting with the 4 inferior grade 3 refined corpses. Of the 4 grade 3 refined corpses, 3 were refined from the corpses of human cultivators and 1 was refined from the corpse of a tiger-type demon beast. The bell in Ji Cheng's hand had an obvious restraining effect on the refined corpses. Once the bell was rung, the 4 refined corpses stood motionless on the spot. The refined corpses would only react after 4 or 5 breaths. The other cultivators took the opportunity to use talismans and artifacts to attack the 4 refined corpses. Ordinary cultivators' artifacts would only cause a few sparks when they hit the grade 3 refined corpses. Only fire elemental attacks and peachwood swords could cause some superficial wounds to the refined corpses. Ji Cheng was also under great pressure. As a Foundation establishment cultivator, activating a grade 3 artifact consumed a lot of his divine sense. However, he had no choice but to activate the bell many times. Otherwise, if the refined corpses woke up, these people would not be able to resist at all. With their strength alone, they would not be able to take down these refined corpses. Wang Daoyuan and Zhou Xian did not go forward. They just stood at the back and threw a few spells at the refined corpses. After 100 breaths, the array disc was set up. The 9th level Foundation establishment formation master activated the core of the array and activated the array. Ji Cheng used all his strength and activated the bell again, suppressing all the 4 refined corpses and covering everyone's retreat. The power of his divine sense was almost exhausted. Seeing that the array was completed, the other Peak Foundation establishment cultivators did not care about anything else and quickly retreated into the array. Jiyu naturally would not give up on his own brother and pulled him into the array. After Ji Cheng entered the array, he meditated near the core of the array to recover the power of his divine sense. Of the other 9 Peak Foundation establishment cultivators, 2 of them were seriously injured and could not protect the array disc at all. Wang Daoyuan and a 9th-level Foundation establishment cultivator replaced the 2 of them and guarded an array disc with the other 7 Foundation establishment cultivators. The remaining 7 9th-level Foundation establishment cultivators and Zhou Xian each went behind an outer array disc to support the cultivators guarding the array disc at any time. Zhou Xian continued to follow Wang Daoyuan shamelessly. There was 1 Peak Foundation establishment cultivator who did not have anyone to support him, Jiyu. That was because he was strong and had a few grade 3 spirit talismans in his hands. Even if there was no support, he could hold on. Ji Cheng finally activated the bell and suppressed the refined corpses for 3 breaths. At that moment, the 4 refined corpses regained their mobility and pounced towards the array. After all, they were grade 3 refined corpses and their speed far exceeded that of Foundation establishment cultivators. Wang Daoyuan expanded his divine sense and watched the refined corpses to prevent them from being ambushed. The souls of humans and demon beasts were divided into 2 parts, the soul and the essence. The soul was the source of consciousness and intelligence. It was hidden in the sea of consciousness, and the power of one's divine sense also came from the soul. On the other hand, the essence was distributed throughout the body and controlled every part of the body under the command of the soul. After a human or demon beast died, the soul left the body, but the essence remained in the body and merged with the body. If the body did not decay, the essence would not dissipate. Therefore, things like divine sense attacks were completely useless against the refined corpses. To defeat the refined corpses, one could only rely on powerful means to directly destroy the refined corpses' bodies. The refined corpses first attacked the lone Jiyu. One of the refined corpses attacked the array disc that Jiyu was guarding. Jiyu's battle strength was not weak. Relying on an escape technique, he dodged the refined corpse's attack and then threw a fire attribute grade 3 spirit talisman over. The refined corpse was instantly surrounded by a sea of fire. The cultivator controlling the array was not idle either. He quickly activated the array and condensed a vermilion bird phantom with a wingspan of about 500 feet. Once the vermilion bird phantom was formed, it spat out a fireball with a diameter of 1 foot at the refined corpse that was attacking Jiyu. The refined corpse was very vigilant and immediately fled outside the array, finally dodging the fireball. A large part of its body was charred by the fire attribute spirit talisman, emitting the fragrance of barbecued meat and the stench of corpses. After suffering a loss at Jiyu's place, the 4 refined corpses no longer found trouble with Jiyu and turned to attack Wang Daoyuan and Zhou Xian, who had the lowest cultivation. Chapter 313. Fortunately, these refined corpses were only probing and did not charge at him. The only one that came to cause trouble for Wang Daoyuan was a tiger-shaped refined corpse. This refined corpse was about 10 meters long. A demon's body was stronger than a human's, and the most important thing about refined corpses was their body. Demon refined corpses grew slower, but they were stronger than human refined corpses of the same level. If a 10-meter-long refined corpse charged at him, it would take away half of his life just by bumping into it, let alone attacking. Wang Daoyuan had no desire to meet the tiger-shaped refined corpse head-on. He threw out the 3 fire python talismans and used the smoke escape to dodge the attack. The rank 3 refined corpse was fast, and its claws brushed past Wang Daoyuan's body. Rank 3 refined corpses were fast, but they were not agile enough. They would need to adjust after missing an attack and could not attack continuously. He turned around to look at Zhou Xian, but found him beside him. As expected of a direct disciple of a large sect, he could easily follow the smoke escape without any obvious spiritual energy fluctuations. The tiger-shaped refined corpse missed its attack, and it was also entangled by the 3 fire pythons. How could it let this go after suffering such a huge loss? With a furious roar, the fire pythons on its body were dispersed, and it charged at the two again. Wang Daoyuan immediately used the smoke escape to dodge. The array was also ready, and the vermilion bird phantom opened its mouth and spat out a fireball. The tiger-shaped refined corpse was in the air, and its body was stiff. It could not dodge at all, and the fireball hit its waist. The refined corpse was sent flying 10 meters away. After the fireball hit the refined corpse, it was ignited, and the fire quickly spread throughout its body. The smell of meat and the stench of corpses spread out. It smelled like a salted fish that had been left out for hundreds of years being set on fire. Wang Daoyuan and Zhou Xian were the closest, and they almost vomited from the smell. The refined corpse did not care about extinguishing the fire, and quickly escaped from the array. The vermilion bird phantom spat out another fireball at the refined corpse. When the refined corpse reached the edge of the array, it was hit by the fireball again. After the tiger-shaped refined corpse escaped from the array, it immediately rolled on the ground. But how could the flames spat out by the vermilion bird phantom be extinguished by rolling? After leaving the range of the formation, the flames were indeed weakening, but it would take some time for them to be completely extinguished. The tiger-shaped refined corpse stopped struggling after being burned for 50 to 60 breaths of time. After half a cup of tea's time, the flames were finally extinguished, and the refined corpse was only left with a broken skeleton. The other 3 refined corpses didn't dare to enter the array anymore. They just roared outside the array. Not long after, the group of refined corpses suddenly stopped roaring and walked towards the formation again. This time, they didn't spread out to test the waters. Instead, the 3 refined corpses pounced on Wang Daoyuan together. Wang Daoyuan immediately used the smoke escape technique to dodge the attack. However, the 3 refined corpses did not chase after him. Instead, they went straight for the array disk that he was protecting. Clearly, someone was controlling the 3 refined corpses, and they knew where the weakness of the formation was. It was unlike the tiger-shaped refined corpse from before, which only knew how to attack and not break the formation plate. Wang Daoyuan didn't know what to do. None of his spells or magic tools could hold back the refined corpse. If the formation was gone, even 21 Peak Foundation establishment cultivators would not be able to defeat the 3 refined corpses. Moreover, he didn't know if there were other refined corpses. At this moment, Zhou Xian's hands were glowing with a blue light. He was accumulating spiritual energy and preparing to cast a spell. Wang Daoyuan couldn't just stand by and watch. He gathered his fire elemental spiritual energy and prepared to cast the heaven-burning divine fire technique. Although he couldn't release spiritual fire now, he could still summon the Bifang illusion and control the vermilion bird illusion's flames. The tiger-shaped refined corpse from before was burned to death by 2 fireballs. The Bifang illusion would only increase the power of the flames, making them even more lethal. The chances of protecting the formation weren't high, but it was worth it to destroy the 3 refined corpses. Soon, the refined corpses were only 30 meters away from the formation plate that Wang Daoyuan was protecting. Zhou Xian's blue spiritual energy flew out and instantly turned into a starry sky. The starry sky separated into 3 groups and trapped the 3 refined corpses. The archaic mysteries sect had always been mysterious. Wang Daoyuan only knew of the aura examination technique, but he didn't know the name of the spell that Zhou Xian was casting. Although the spell was powerful, it wasn't easy to trap 3 rank 3 refined corpses. Zhou Xian looked like he was having a hard time. The level 9 foundation establishment cultivator who cast the earth-splitting technique used the same trick again and created a huge crack under the 3 refined corpses. Although the refined corpses were rank 3, they still couldn't fly and needed to get up from the ground. Now that their feet were in the air, they couldn't exert any strength and couldn't break free from the trapping technique. They all fell to the ground. At this moment, the vermilion bird illusion spat out a ball of flames towards the refined corpses. Unfortunately, the 3 refined corpses were scattered. The ball of flames only managed to trap one of the refined corpses, and it burned rapidly. The refined corpse fell into the crack and landed on the ground. It started to struggle violently. Zhou Xian tried his best to hold on, but he was sweating profusely from exhaustion. Wang Daoyuan's heaven-burning divine fire technique was also done charging. A Baifeng illusion flew out from his hand towards the burning refined corpse. The Baifeng illusion flew to the top of the fire-refined corpse's head. With a flap of its wings, the height of the flames immediately increased by several times. A part of the flames was attracted to the Baifeng illusion, and it flew towards the other two refined corpses with the flames. The other two refined corpses were still trapped by Zhou Xian's spell and couldn't escape at all. They could only watch as the flames burned their bodies. The moment the flames spat out by the vermilion bird illusion touched the refined corpses, they burned fiercely. This was the vermilion bird divine fire formation. The formation provided spiritual energy for the flames. Not only would they not be extinguished, but they would burn even more fiercely. The three refined corpses struggled violently. 3 soft sounds were heard, and the star illusions on the refined corpses shattered. Zhou Xian also spat out a mouthful of blood and fell to the ground. After the 3 refined corpses broke free, they quickly rushed towards the formation plate. The others also cast spells to stop the refined corpses. Jiyu threw out a few lower level 3 talismans to attack the refined corpses, but it had little effect. Finally, one of the refined corpses pounced on the formation plate and crushed it with one stomp. With one formation plate missing, the vermilion bird divine fire formation was instantly broken. The vermilion bird illusion also wailed and disappeared. Although the formation didn't provide spiritual energy, the flames could still burn for a while. With the Baifeng illusion, the flames burned fiercely and could last for a longer time. After the 3 refined corpses broke the formation, they began to attack the other cultivators. However, with the flames on their bodies, they couldn't hold on for long. After a few breaths, the 3 refined corpses fell to the ground and couldn't get up. They didn't even have the strength to struggle. From the start of the refined corpses until now, it only took about 10 breaths of time. The Baifeng illusion could increase the power of the flames by several times. Wang Daoyuan recalled the Baifeng illusion, and the flames on the 3 refined corpses immediately weakened. He didn't care about the refined corpses anymore, and immediately cast the rejuvenation spell to heal Zhou Xian's injuries. Zhou Xian trapped the 3 rank 3 refined corpses for a few breaths of time with his foundation building level 7 cultivation. In the end, the spell was broken, and he suffered a backlash. Both his body and soul were heavily injured. Wang Daoyuan didn't dare to let anything happen to him. Otherwise, he would definitely be angered by the fortune-tellers of the Arctic Mysteries sect. After 10 breaths of time, Zhou Xian's injuries improved significantly. Jiyu cupped his hands towards the 2 of them. Many thanks to the 2 of you, Daoyu. If not for the 2 of you, I'm afraid we would have been slaughtered by these 3 refined corpses. Wang Daoyuan exchanged some pleasantries with the few of them and ignored them. Instead, he transmitted his voice to Daoyu. Dao, Zhou Xian, can you withstand the corrosion of the yin qi? Hearing this, Zhou Xian was a little dazed, but he quickly reacted and nodded. Wang Daoyuan prepared to use water attribute spiritual energy to envelop him to avoid the refined corpses. This was Qinji's lair, and it couldn't be guarded by just this little force. It was very likely that there were more rank 3 refined corpses. Now that the formation was gone and there were more rank 3 refined corpses, he could only rely on his own ability to survive. At this moment, a few roars came from all directions. Chapter 3:14. Originally, everyone's faces were filled with joy, but now, their smiles completely froze. Then they revealed looks of fear. Wang Daoyuan had expected this. Even someone as honest as him would not use all of his power at once. Chen Ji was a cunning person and would not do such a stupid thing. He had asked Zhou Xian if he could withstand the yin qi. Although Zhou Xian did not know the inside story, he was not a fool and knew that things were not that simple. Both of them were mentally prepared and did not panic at all. The others rushed towards the entrance of the secret realm. Wang Daoyuan calmly covered his body with water attribute spirit energy and formed a ball of water attribute spirit energy to envelop Zhou Xian. Then, he took out 2 forbidden spirit silk cloaks from the spirit orb. The 2 of them put on the cloaks and did not escape towards the entrance. Instead, they ran in the opposite direction and ran towards the depths of the secret realm. According to Qi Yun's memories, there was a river in the depths of the secret realm. However, when he and Shenji explored the secret realm, they only saw the river from afar and did not go to the river. After receiving the inheritance of the 10,000 corpse spiritual master, he was plotted against by Shenji and did not know much about the situation in the depths. Wang Daoyuan and Zhou Xian were running towards the depths of the secret realm, which was a very risky move. However, it was better than risking their lives against a group of lower rank 3 corpses. Among all his methods, only the returning Earth Flame and Earth Divine Lightning could injure the rank 3 refined zombie. But even then, it would take a long time to destroy it. The corpses would not just stand there and let him hit them. As long as he was hit by the corpses, he would lose his ability to resist. Chen Ji had many rank 3 corpses under him and he had no chance of surviving. Just as they ran 100 feet, a rank 3 lower rank 3 human-shaped corpse ran towards them. The 2 of them brushed past the corpse. The corpse only stopped and looked around before continuing to run towards the entrance of the secret realm. The 2 of them sighed in relief. Yin Qi could indeed hide their life force and prevent the corpse from discovering them. As for the forbidden spirit silk cloak, it was used to guard against Shenji. Some corpse controlling techniques could use the divine sense through the corpse refinement. Wang Daoyuan didn't know Shenji's depth. What if he could use spiritual sense to search for the target through the refined corpse? If he wore the spirit-restricting silk cloak, he would be able to guard against this. Not long after the 2 of them dodged the refined corpse, sounds of fighting and wailing came from behind them. Wang Daoyuan secretly rejoiced that he had not fled in that direction. Chen Ji was a cunning old fox. He would definitely leave a backup plan near the entrance. There was no direction in the mystic realm. Wang Daoyuan determined that the entrance to the mystic realm was in the north, and the river flowed from the northwest to the southeast. The place where Daoist master myriad corpses passed away was in the southeast. There were Type 4 refined corpses left behind by the 10,000 corpse Daoist master, and Wang Daoyuan naturally did not dare to join in the fun. In order to hide their tracks, the 2 of them didn't dare to use magic, nor did they dare to fly on their swords. They could only run wildly on the ground. Ever since he entered the foundation building realm, he hadn't been forced to flee in such a sorry state in the past few decades. Fortunately, it was on the rocky ground, so it wouldn't leave any traces. Even if foundation establishment cultivators didn't use magic, their physical bodies were far stronger than ordinary people's. After running wildly for half a cup of tea's time, they ran more than 50 miles. They saw 100 feet ahead of them, there was a willow tree more than 10 feet tall. The 2 of them walked to the side of the willow tree and saw a spring beside the roots. The spring water was earthy yellow, and it contained a strong yin qi. This spring water was much worse than the Gui water nether spring. The amount of water in the Gui water nether spring was much larger, and the water contained pure yin qi. However, the yin qi in this spring water was not pure. It seemed to contain some death qi similar to that of refined corpses and ghosts. Wang Daoyuan condensed a ball of wood attribute spirit power and threw it into the water. As soon as it came into contact with the spirit power, the spring water boiled. In just a breath of time, the wood attribute spirit power dissipated, and the vitality contained in it also disappeared. The spring water that came into contact with the spirit power turned from yellow to black. In the black spring water, the yin qi contained became purer and no longer contained death qi. Zhou Xian carefully looked at the spring water and said, "Wu Daoyu is really capable. The wood attribute spirit power actually contains vitality. No wonder the healing effect of the rejuvenation technique is so good. This spring water contains both yin qi and death qi at the same time. I seem to know the name of this secret realm." The Archaic Mysteries sect was one of the top forces in Beiyuan Xiuxian. It was also an ancient force that existed before the formation of Decimating Heaven Abyss. In addition, this group of fortune-tellers liked to inquire about secret matters. The secret matters they knew far exceeded that of ordinary forces. Wang Daoyuan asked curiously, What is the origin of this spring water? Please enlighten me, Daoyu. Zhou Xian smiled and said, Wu Daoyu, have you heard of reincarnation? Daoyu means that this thing is related to the underworld? Yes, this spring water is yellow. It contains both yin qi and death qi. It is very similar to the yellow spring in the legends. It's just that the concentration of yin qi and death qi is too low. Legend has it that the underworld and the living world are yin and yang. They depend on each other, but they are separated by a spatial barrier. There is a yellow spring river in the underworld. Its origin is unknown, and its destination is unknown. If a crack appears in the spatial barrier between the underworld and the living world, it will form a secret realm filled with yang qi in the underworld, or a secret realm filled with yin qi and death qi in the human world. According to legend, this yellow spring water should come from the underworld's yellow spring river. After a living creature dies, if it does not become a ghost, its soul will enter the underworld's yellow spring river from such a secret realm. If the legend is true, then the bottom of this spring may lead to the underworld. Daoyu, are you interested in going down to take a look? Zhou Xian teased. Wang Daoyuan glanced at him and said, regardless of whether this legend is true or not, even if it is true, I haven't lived long enough. How can I easily enter the underworld? Finished speaking, he pointed at the willow tree and asked, what is the origin of this willow tree? Zhou Xian thought for a while and said, this thing seems to be called yellow spring willow. It only grows beside the yellow spring. I'm not too sure about the specific functions it has. After all, these are just legends. Who would remember it so clearly? However, seeing that this yellow spring willow is at least a level 3 spiritual wood, it's not bad to cut it down and sell it for money. Regardless of whether the legend is true or not, this yellow spring should be the secret realm's core. A level 4 spiritual spring will definitely nurture natural treasures. I don't know if it's not old enough or if someone took it away. Wang Daoyuan knew in his heart that if this yellow spring could nurture anything, it must have fallen into Qinji's hands. He smiled and said, let's not court death. Cutting down a level 3 spiritual wood will cause too much of a commotion and alert the refined corpses. We can't even think about running. Let's just break a few branches and leave. It's a pity. If this spring water only has yin qi, it can nurture some spiritual plants. However, it contains death qi. Only a strange thing like the yellow spring willow can survive. Zhou Xian did not have any objections. He took out a foot-long folding fan. This folding fan was made of a special metal material. He opened the folding fan and threw it into the middle of the canopy. Under the control of his divine sense, the folding fan shuttled back and forth between the dense branches. Finally, in an inconspicuous place in the canopy, it cut off 2 branches about an inch in diameter. He kept the folding fan, and the branches fell down. Zhou Xian caught the branches and kept one of them. He handed the other to Wang Daoyuan. Wang Daoyuan took the willow branch and kept it in the spiritual pearl space. He said, let's leave this place as soon as possible. After the refined corpses deal with those people, they might come running over. Zhou Xian nodded. The two of them fled in the west direction. If they went to the secret realm's entrance now, they would be walking right into a trap. It would not be too late to wait until Qinji let down his guard. Chapter 3:15. The two fled to the west for dozens of miles and found a crack in the rock. The crack wasn't big enough. Wang Daoyuan wanted to use his earth-type spirit energy to erode the rock and expand the crack. However, Zhou Xian took the initiative to cut the rock with his folding fan like a knife cutting through tofu. Soon, they were more than 10 feet underground, creating a space big enough for the two of them to rest. The cut rock was put into the spirit beast bag. The 5-elemental spirit energy in the secret realm was very thin, almost non-existent. However, there was a lot of yin qi and death qi. It was impossible to cultivate in such an environment, and the spirit energy in the body would constantly dissipate. Coupled with the corrosion of yin qi and death qi, normal cultivators wouldn't last more than a few days in such an environment. Wang Daoyuan didn't care about this. He couldn't refine the death qi, but he could use the life force in his wood-type spirit energy to offset it. Yin qi could be integrated into his water-type spirit energy. His water-type spirit energy already contained pure yin qi, so it didn't matter if he had more or less. As for the lack of 5 elemental spirit energy, that was even less of a concern. In a situation where he didn't need to fight, the spirit energy in a jar of 100-year-old spiritual peach dew could last him for a few months. He didn't need to worry about Zhou Xian at all. He used a secret technique to enter a state of suspended animation. In half a cup of tea's time, his heart would only beat 2 or 3 times, and he would only breathe once. He used this method to reduce the consumption of spirit energy and the corrosion of the death qi and yin qi. Wang Daoyuan was more casual. He drank the spiritual peach dew and ate jerky every day. The two stayed in the secret realm for 2 months. Wang Daoyuan went out to scout many times and found that there was an inferior 3rd-grade corpse guarding the exit. After 2 months of suspended animation, Zhou Xian couldn't withstand the corrosion of the yin qi and death qi and woke up. Seeing Wang Daoyuan eating and drinking, he was almost angered to death. He said angrily, "You didn't tell me you had food to eat, and made me suffer for 2 months." Wang Daoyuan smiled. "You didn't ask me either, right?" He extracted all the yin qi in his body and used the rejuvenation technique to eliminate the death qi in his body. He smiled and said, "The yin qi and death qi in your body are gone. You can continue sleeping. You can last for another 2 months." No matter what, Zhou Xian was unwilling to enter the state of suspended animation again. He insisted on eating and drinking with Wang Daoyuan. The two ate jerky and drank wine together. After a few days, Zhou Xian asked, "Do you have enough food? We don't need to eat so much in one day." Wang Daoyuan lifted his Daoist robe and showed him the dozens of spirit beast pouches and storage pouches hanging inside. He said, "This is nothing. The dried meat and spirit wine I have stored are enough to last us for a few years. Let's stay in this secret realm for a year and a half. The person controlling the refined corpses will definitely let down his guard. When that time comes, we'll rush out. Once we're outside, we won't have to worry about the refined corpses chasing after us." Wang Daoyuan usually carried dozens of storage pouches with him to protect the space in his spiritual orb. If he was suspected, he would have an excuse. The two of them stayed in the crevice for 7 to 8 months. Wang Daoyuan went out to gather information and found that there were no rank 3 refined corpses guarding the entrance of the secret realm. After Wang Daoyuan returned to the crevice, he asked Zhou Xian, "Brother Zhou, are you confident in killing a rank 3 lower refined corpse? Now that there are no refined corpses guarding the entrance of the secret realm, I'm worried that the opponent will set up an ambush. When we go out, if a refined corpse jumps out to block our way, we'll have to deal with it quickly. Most of my methods are used against living humans and monsters. Against a rank 3 refined corpse, even if I use all my methods, I'll only be able to injure it. I won't even be able to heavily injure it." He did not mean to hide his abilities. Even if he used all his methods, it would still be difficult to take down a rank 3 lower refined corpse. Hearing this, Zhou Xian nodded and said, "I do have some methods to kill rank 3 refined corpses, but I won't use them unless my life is in danger. Once I use these methods, an elder will quickly come and take me back. In the future, it will be difficult for me to regain my freedom. If I really have no other choice, I won't be stingy." Wang Daoyuan nodded and did not say anything else. After waiting for half a month, the two of them left the crevice and prepared to rush out of the secret realm. Just like when they were escaping, they wore the spirit-restricting silk cloak and wrapped it with a layer of water spiritual energy. The crevice they were hiding in was a little far from the entrance of the secret realm. After walking for an hour, they finally arrived near the entrance. There were no refined corpses around, and the two of them did not dare to use their divine senses to probe. They walked straight to the entrance of the secret realm. Zhou Xian took out his peachwood sword and was about to hang a spiritual talisman on it. Wang Daoyuan smiled and said, "If the opponent really wants to ambush us, a rank 3 lower talisman won't be able to do anything. Just watch me." Finishing his words, he took out a jade box from the spiritual pearl's space and unlocked the seal on it. Inside the jade box was a blue bead that contained violent water attribute spiritual energy. Zhou Xian asked, "Is this the gray water lightning pearl?" Wang Daoyuan smiled and said, "Yes, it is indeed the gray water lightning pearl." Unfortunately, the gray water divine lightning sealed inside is only level 3. It can injure a rank 3 refined corpse, but it can't seriously injure it. However, it's enough to scare people. This gray water lightning pearl was given to him by his grandfather during the small beast tide. He had never used it. Now, the earth divine lightning he casually used was more powerful than this gray water lightning pearl. Under normal circumstances, he would not need to use it. However, they were at the entrance of the secret realm. The light screen in front of them separated the secret realm and the outside world into 2 spaces. Divine senses could not penetrate it at all. Even if he cast a spell, after the spell passed through the light screen, it would only turn into a ball of ordinary spiritual energy. He took out another jade box and unlocked the seal on it. He took out the gray water lightning pearl and placed it on his waist. He placed a gray water lightning pearl on the tip of his peachwood sword, held the sword hilt, and extended the sword tip out of the door. Then, a stream of spiritual energy was transmitted through the peachwood sword. The light screen of the door shook. The 2 of them stuck a dozen defensive talismans on their bodies and passed through the door as fast as they could. After passing through the door, they saw over 20 refined corpses standing in the underground cave outside the secret realm. There were even a few lying on the ground. Among them, there were 5 rank 3 lower grade refined corpses. The rest were all rank 2 upper grade refined corpses. These rank 2 upper grade refined corpses were familiar faces. They were the people who came with them. However, the Ji brothers were not among them. After exiting the door, Wang Daoyuan immediately used the smoke escape to avoid the attacks of the refined corpses. He then summoned the flying kite. The rank 3 lower grade refined corpses reacted very quickly. In the process of using the escape technique, Wang Daoyuan's body was attacked several times. The dozen defensive talismans were all destroyed. Just as Wang Daoyuan stepped onto the flying kite, Zhou Xian stood behind him. The defensive talismans on his body were intact. The archaic Arcanum Sex escape technique was truly ridiculous. The refined corpses would not watch the 2 pieces of meat in front of them escape. They once again pounced on the flying kite. As a flying magic tool, the flying kite was much faster than a flying sword. However, it could not be compared to the speed of the rank 3 refined corpses. 5 rank 3 refined corpses immediately rushed towards them. Wang Daoyuan took out the gray water lightning bead from his waist and threw it at the refined corpses. The rank 3 refined corpses did not dodge. Instead, they pounced towards the 2 of them. The gray water lightning bead only caused some superficial wounds to the rank 3 refined corpses. The 2 of them could not escape. A jade coin with a square hole appeared in Zhou Xian's hand. The jade coin was less than an inch in diameter, but the spiritual energy on it was extremely intense. The 5 rank 3 refined corpses had already jumped into the air. They were only 2 to 3 feet away from the flying kite. At this moment, Zhou Xian threw out the jade coin in his hand. After the jade coin left his hand, a 300-meter-long white jade-colored dragon phantom appeared out of thin air. The jade dragon swung its tail and slapped the 5 rank 3 refined corpses to the ground. Wang Daoyuan quickly controlled the flying kite to fly out of the underground cave. 5 breaths later, the jade coin flew out of the cave and landed in Zhou Xian's hand. You're tuning in to the Wang Lin's Journey YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.